Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another round of racing in the UKSimRacing Community's GT3 League Season 12, as brought to you on the premier sim racing platform available only on PC, known as iRacing. And today, it is round 6 of 8 as we continue to charge away towards the season finale. And with rounds running out gradually, we are here in Japan for the second and final time this season for the one and only Okayama International Circuit. A lesser known circuit by today's standards. If you were to wind the clock back by the best part of 20-30 years, this circuit perhaps be more commonly known on the international stage and played host to a variety of series, including all the way up to the pinnacle of open wheel motorsport, that being Formula 1 with the Pacific Grand Prix. It is a circuit located near the town of Mimasaka in Japan, and it is a circuit like no other when it comes to providing a tight and technical challenge. Originally opened in the 1970s as a circuit for the wealthy to play about with their fanciful sports cars machines, very quickly the potential of this circuit was recognised as being a race course that could be an alternative to others in mainland Japan, and very shortly afterwards this circuit started to play host to a variety of domestic and international series. At its peak, playing host to Formula 1, nowadays this circuit plays host to a variety of international and domestic series still, including the likes on domestic levels such as Super Formula and Super GT, but it also plays host to rounds of the GT World Challenge Asia, and therefore this circuit is not to be forgotten about. With 11 corners spanning its 2.31 mile surface, it is a circuit where overtaking opportunities are limited to certain corners. Indeed, that means track position is absolutely key, and for our drivers today, the big question is going to be who can take pole position in qualifying and run away with it in the race, and who can be intelligent with strategy in order to make up the places. Well, that's what we're going to see, and plenty more as we go racing today, and we welcome you to this live broadcast from circuit side, available on the 2 official broadcasts from UKSimRacing. Firstly, you have the official broadcast available on YouTube, and we welcome you guys and girls tuning in via YouTube. And when we don't see anybody in there in the chat at the moment, but if you are in the YouTube chat, don't be shy, feel free to say hi. And of course, we're on YouTube at UKSimRacing or UKSR. But we also have the other broadcast platform available, that's in the form of Twitch at twitch.tv/UKSimRacing. And we say hello to you guys and girls on Twitch, including Anstis96 and also Stuart Pearson. And Stuart Pearson absolutely enjoying the intro sequence that was put together by Matt Edmondson, who you'll see on the grid today, and he'd thrown together multiple major moments over the course of previous seasons of the UKSimRacing GT3 League, and it makes my heart absolutely flutter each and every time when I see it. But as we welcome you guys and girls all to this broadcast, in the commentary booth you have myself. My name is Paul Walsh, also known as TX141 or Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on, and I'll bring you all your racing action today, and indeed over the entirety of the season. And what a season it has been at thus far, and what we still got lying in wait, well, it's still plenty to look forward to. Because today is Sunday, the 18th of February 2024. We are in round 6 of 8, and as we can see, we're almost towards the end of what is the third quarter of the championship. But if we wind the clock all the way back, we started off on the 7th of January with our endurance race opener at the US circuit of Daytona International Speedway, and the road course there had us go off to an absolute aplomb with round number 1. Round number 2 carried that forward into what was our first sprint race of the season in Germany at the Hockenheim in Baden-Württemberg, and then we got to see a change of tone from slipstreaming antics to what was highly technical overtakes by our drivers on the 14th of January, and then we had our one and only mid-season break week. After that, we returned to the racing in Japan at the Suzuka International Racing Course, with the Grand Prix circuit of Suzuka playing host for round number 3 on the 28th of January, and the sprint race there not to be forgotten about. We saw many a driver get it wrong at 1:30 but we also got to see many a driver get it right, battling through the S's and also making their way through the Degners. And then speaking of Degners, whereas Degners from into disarray at Sebring for many, particularly at the front of the field in what's the pro class in round number 4, when our sprint race down the 4th of February, many a concrete slab called to drive out, and it was just as much a test of our driver's stamina as it was the suspension of their cars. And that was the end of the first half of the season, and we leapt our way straight into the second half of the season with round number 5 last time out, and that was our second endurance race round of the season on the 11th of February at the roller coaster ride of road racing that is Road Atlanta. And what a round we had there, in the fact plenty of battles to be accounted for. Indeed, we got to see Christer Halsoy take his first win of the season, in particular perhaps the big moment of the season in the Prime class. And that's in the Pro class, I should say, and not to get our Pro, Prime and AM classes mixed up, but we also saw a heartbreak in the AM class with Matt Edmondson on course for victory, his first victory of the season at Road Atlanta, only to see the car end up in the wall with only 2 laps to go. But now we make our way to round number 6, and after today, we have 2 more rounds to go, including round number 7 in a week's time at the Mount Panorama Raceway, but you will none love it and refer to it as Bathurst, with the 12 hours of Bathurst hand played out this weekend, and that'll be our 3rd endurance race round of the season on the 25th of February, and we bring it all to a close, and the curtains will come on down on round number 8 of the Circuit of the Americas, our sprint race season finale on the 3rd of March. And that round is undroppable, remember, so therefore we can expect our drivers to be turning up in full force in order to end their championship campaigns on the ultimate high. And we'll come in off of that high. Let's come to our circuit for today. And it is the full course layout of the Okayama International Circuit. Now, as we said earlier, located near the town of Mimasaka in the Okayama region of Japan, on the Honshu Island in particular, as we can see from the circuit map provided by iRacing.com. And thanks to iRacing, of course, their brilliant track maps that come with the absolutely fantastic simulator. This circuit is highly complex just by the look of it. With many a sweeping corner plus multiple hairpins as well, this is a circuit which is going to be just as much about a driver's technical abilities as it's going to be about their ability to be hard and fast on the brakes. And as they roll their way around here, they're going to notice very early on that the road surface is only wide at certain points, and particularly in the second half of the lap, it's only wide enough for 1.5 wide at the best of times when it comes to the racing line. But as they charge away across the start-finish straight and down towards turn number 1 into first corner, they'll make the way up for the sweeping right-hander before switch back into Williams corner at turn number 2. And as they come through the left-hand, it's then a flat-out run through the Moss S sequence. Then it's turn number 3 before it concludes at outward curve at turn number 4. An uphill right-hander, which you'll see our drivers have to deal with an off-camber entry to a cambered exit. They'll make the way out of turn 4 for the flat-out run down the back straight in towards the hairpin at turn number 5. And one of the key overtaking opportunities at the turn 5 hairpin, we can expect 2, perhaps even 3 wide there before the circuit rapidly narrows. Then it's the double left-hander of Revolver at turn number 6 into Piper at 7. We're going too wide through those corners. It's going to cost you a huge amount of time. By the time you get to Redmond at turn number 8, well, somebody's got to give in, because then it becomes incredibly tight to a back-to-back sequence of hairpins at turn number 8 and turn number 9 that follows at Hobbs, switching back from a left into right, and on top of that as well, an elevation change, while drivers will be rising up to some of the highest points on the circuit before making the way downhill from White Knight corner at turn number 10 and into last corner at 11, sweeping the way back onto the start-finish straight to do it all over again. And while the other major overtaking opportunity can be coming out the last corner onto that start-finish straight, with 2 key places to go for overtakes, arguably also outward curve, it does mean that overtakes are going to be limited and our drivers are going to need bold. They're going to need to be brave, and also they're going to need to be brilliant if they want to shine high and be on the top step of their respective podiums. But with regards to when we go racing, of course we can't go racing without rules, and as we can see here in terms of car setup, and we do apologise there because we do seem to have our qualifying rules from the endurance racing, and we do point out that is not correct there. But in terms of car setup, our drivers are restricted to not being able to change the car over the course of this season. Indeed, that rule has been in effect since the start of the season, and while we have seen some drivers have to battle against the elements with the cars they've chosen, but for the most part everybody has continued to push on with the cars they've chosen, and indeed giving it everything they can. But also on top of that as well, we continue to keep the rule, which is car fuel loads are restricted to 70% for all races of the season, and while that can lead to quite a bit of strategic variety, and we'll come on to exactly how that can create some strategic variety when we come into the race. Now on top of that as well, qualifying wise, as we do get the correction there, sprint race qualifying is in effect today because this is a sprint race round, and lone qualifying shall be in use, and that means that all the drivers will take to an isolated instance of the circuit where they can put in the laps that they need to put themselves on pole for qualifying. And we should point out that drivers have 4 laps available, or 15 minutes to set their best possible time, whichever expires first, and we are expecting, what have it been, a relatively short lap round here, approximately 1.5 minutes. We are going to be seeing what will be those 4 laps expire well before the 15 minutes. Now, as we come onto our racing rules, races shall commence via a double-file rolling start, as is the tradition of the UKSimRacing GT3 League. There are no mandatory pit stop requirements for our drivers. However, with regards to the pit stop strategy today, it would typically be expected to be a one-stop based on what we've seen in previous sprint race rounds, but rumour has it down in the paddock we could be looking at our first no-stop race of the season for those who are willing to fuel save to the utmost. And on top of that as well, each driver has 1 fast repair available should they pick up major damage and need to come into the pits, and all race journeys shall be conducted post-race. And this is a sprint race round, a driver shall receive a drive-through penalty if they accumulate 17 or more instant points. But that's enough rules, regulation, everything between. You're all here for the racing, and so are we. And well, as we look back to circuit side here in the graphically refurbished Okayama International Circuit on iRacing in its full splendour, we'll get to see it today. Well, here is your schedule for tonight. Times in Greenwich Mean Time, that's GMT, or Universal Coordinate Time, UTC. And as we've seen, just under 9 minutes time, we'll be going qualifying 15 minutes in duration, all the drivers in the lone qualifying sessions available to them. And after that, we're making our way to the grid for our one and only race on schedule for today, and that will be the 60-minute or 1-hour sprint race due to commence at 8:15 with the gridding procedure. But with pleasant conditions here at the moment, and I do believe it's quite early in the morning local time, 24 degrees centigrade ambient, and the same for track temperature. Well, that track temperature is definitely going to come up as the day goes on, as is the ambient to a degree, but for all the drivers right now, it gives them plenty of opportunity to get their heads down and get some good laps on the board in this final practice session. And well, as we do, some of the drivers making their way around the circuit right now, including here from Effect Simulations, Alex Millward. the Effect Simulations Porsche 992 driver. Well, in the elite class today, it definitely is going to be a bit of a different day of racing for the simple reason that our driver who's currently the championship leader, and he's in the pit lane right now, Alex Milne, been one of the drivers who's chasing after our championship leader. Well, said leader is James Armstrong, who sits there at the moment in the pit lane in the Brabham Esports Audi R8 Evo 2. We has received what is a qualifying ban for this round due to a penalty picked up from the previous round at Road Atlanta. And well, whilst these championship leaders could be a big dent into his championship lead, will be a championship lead spanning the best part, if I do believe correctly, of 16 points over Haroldas Jotautas. So right now Armstrong will be knowing that he's got to start from the back of the field, and he's got to try and carve his way through, and this could effectively become his drop score, albeit drivers such as Jotautas and whatnot won't mind that, because they'll be looking to try and pick up the win for themselves and move at the maximum possible point total in order to carry the momentum forward and keep the championship alive into the final 2 rounds of the season. But speaking of the absolute motorsport ace driver here from Lithuania, we're looking forward to plenty more for him today, where it was definitely an uphill battle at Road Atlanta, not due to the elevation changes, just because of that, but indeed also the fact that having to find the pace to hunt down what is Armstrong, but also having some brilliant battling with the likes of Jacko Taylor and also what is Alex Milwood there, and we're looking forward to plenty more from him today. And unfortunately we're not going to be seen on the grid in the elite class day. Eric Rose, who I do believe, and I may be mistaken on this, but from what I understand, has had to retire from the series recently due to personal circumstances, so we're not going to be seeing the Racing Lab Esports driver on the grid for the remainder of the season in the number 1, and the number 1 will definitely be going to another driver come the end of the season, and what Armstrong does seem to be the favourite. As we come from our elite class drivers, let's talk a little bit about our pro drivers, and here is your pro championship leader of Ryan Davies, currently 27 points ahead of both Alex Hill and also Christer Halsoy. Unfortunately, you're not going to be seeing Christer Halsoy on the grid today due to personal circumstances. He's not feeling 100%, but we do hope he's going to be back around on so in a week's time at Bathurst in Australia, and we definitely look forward to that. But meanwhile, Ryan Davies making his way on around right now with an unassailable championship lead. He'll be feeling as though, and if he does pick up the win today, he'll be feeling that it's going to be his opportunity in a week's time to potentially put the championship in such a position that going into the finale of the Circuit of the Americas in round number 8 2 weeks from now, whilst it's an undroppable round, he'll feel as though all he's got to do is get the car to the finish and the championship will be his. And what's a nice place to be for the Tiki Simsport Car Marte driver. And joint P2 at the moment, Alex Hill and Christer Halsoy, and Alex Hill in the Tiki Simsport Kimi machine, 276 Audi R8 Evo 2, drawing his way around right now and looking to try and make sure he finishes in what is a 1-2 order, with Davies to continue the 1-2 string that the team have been putting together, albeit we'll have to wait to see whether that's possible, given Casper Brotner currently in second place in this practice session of the pro drivers. But speaking of other drivers out there to keep your eyes out in the pro class, we always do have one of the fan favourites from Sloshy Motorsports there, the Turkish driver Matt Hisley, given his tenacity to go battling into each and every corner and never give it in, and we absolutely love to see it. And number 14 driver there recovering from a spin coming out of Revolver corner as he makes his way through turn number 7 now, getting himself set in the Lamborghini Huracan Evo, racing the Iron Dames livery. And then we do come on to the Prime class. In the Prime class, we look to one of the drivers making his way around right now, Alan Lever for UKSimRacing Stuart, one of our top 3 drivers in the championship, looking to try and keep the championship well and truly firmly alive. He's currently P2, and he is 6 points behind the championship leader of Chris Constable. And where is Chris Constable? I hear many of you ask, well, at the moment we can't quite see him out on the grid, or indeed we can't see him out on the circuit, we should really say. And with that in mind, I think right now many a Prime driver will be looking to try and use this as an opportunity, that should Constable not be in the 10th today, to close the delta, because Constable really has been in a world of his own for Destino Motorsports all the way through the season. It has been the game of chase, and another driver who's knowing all about the game of chase. He wasn't on the grid last week at Road Atlanta, but he's back today. Is UKSimRacing Stuart Rob Zelby, who in P3 in the championship, roaring his way up through then the Ferrari 2960, makes his way past our cameraman. Well, he'll be feeling confident that he can do everything he can today in order to support the aspirations of UKSimRacing Stuart, who are right up there in the team's championship, and also continues fight for what will be the win of the Prime Championship. As he takes a little bit of the run wide down at turn number 2, easy to do. We then comes the AM class, and we're currently in the pit lane is James Connolly, parked up there, and our cameraman not quite able to get a close-up shot of the UKSimRacing Mansell driver, and well, we do apologise for that, but you can see him there between the fence post and the Advan gantry board, in the fact the 46 driver in the Ferrari 296, your championship leader at the moment by 6 points over the ever-loved Jack Barker there in the Ford GT. Lights flashing at the moment, and I had the opportunity to catch up with Barker in the build-ups tonight in the 163, and he really was saying that today is all going to be about strategy and track position. There's no doubt about it, and being as are around here, too wide anyway is going to cost you a huge amount of time as he makes his way out the pit lane. But he knows he's on camera or not, we're not quite sure. What we do know is he's going to get a bit more practice in before all is said and done in the Ford GT, and right now looking to close down that gap to Conley. But meanwhile, the one driver who will be looking to try and go a bit further today will be Matt Edmondson, currently out of the car, so we can't get a camera shot on him, and he'll be looking to try and hunt down his first win of the season after that heartbreak at Road Atlanta. Many a driver out there at the moment, and well, as we do look to John Doe in the TD SimSport King machine, the Canadian driver right now in the 77 making his way on around for return at number 10, and roaring his way on down in the BMW M4. We should point out that you're going to see some of the TD SimSport drivers today running special Japanese liveries on their cars, and I do believe we have a couple of them dedicated to Gundam, and indeed the mechanised animation, if you will, albeit that's probably not the right terminology, but I'm not too au fait with regards to how you do classify Gundam. I think you get what I mean in the fact that mechanised machines, which indeed go battling with kaijus or massive monsters. I hope I got the series right, but I'm sure those of you who are big fans of anime in the YouTube or Twitch chat will correct me if I'm wrong there. And Morris Doe will make his way on through turn at number 3. We may also see Tiki-chan out there, the waifu machine, in the hands of some of the Tiki drivers, albeit I believe we might be looking to John Eddowes for that. But no, in fact, he's running the Gundam livery there, and well, there's the TT SimSport Toa driver as he makes his way on through turn number 1 into turn at number 2, and well, we always look forward to seeing the new liveries on the cars there, the special tribute liveries. But as we also do say hello in the YouTube chat to Helen Watson, who says let's go, also to Andrew Skinner, who says sorry couldn't make tonight, grief hit me 30 minutes before practice as my nan passed away. I'll be back next week with a special tribute livery, cheering on the Tiki boys. Well, Andrew, very sorry to hear that, but completely understandable, and indeed our thoughts are with you right now. I'm sure I speak for the whole of the UK sim racing community and everybody tuning in that we do root behind you, and indeed sorry to hear of the passing of your nan, and we look forward to seeing the special tribute livery in a week's time. And well, of course, grief being a thing which you can't put a timer on, and so we hope you're on the grid next week, but at the same time as well, if you do need time to process things, at the same time as well, we completely understand, and we're all here for you as a big happy sim racing family at UK Sim Racing. And we also do say hello there in the Twitch chat to Zeros, who's wishing everyone good luck and wishing that we have a good time in the Contour booth. Thank you, Zeros. Indeed, absolutely excited for this round of racing, and we've only got 1.5 minutes before we do make our way into the qualifying sessions. We do look to Kev Eiled in the TART machine, parking up in the BMW M4, in fact making his way back to the pit lane and getting himself all set and ready to go. And as he does so here, and some of you might be wondering right now, what can we expect the form to be today in terms of our choices of driver machinery in the GT3 class? Well, we're going to talk about that in due course. We do go into qualifying. I think it's a bit more appropriate there, but right now Casper Rotner looking very fast in the old duty cars, black Porsche today, and the Danishman making his way across the start-finish line straight now, and as he does so, he'll be looking to try and go for his first win in the Pro Class this season. Indeed, many a driver eager to take their first wins and get them on the board. It is a huge achievement to get a winning class over the course of the UK Sim Racing at GT3 League in a given season, and those wins feel like gold dust some days. And well, today we're definitely going to see some dust across the circuit, given the number of potential run wides from our drivers as they push as hard as they possibly can. But this Okayama circuit looking absolutely beautiful, it must be said, as we do look to the blimp camera, completely refurbished as of the previous season of content on iRacing, and well, indeed one of the oldest circuits on the simulator service, a free circuit as well, so you can race on this circuit in any car that you have available entirely for free, and indeed it is a brilliant circuit to go racing at. And many would argue, particularly down the paddock when I was listening on a number of conversations between drives, this is one of those circuits that is a brilliant time trialing circuit and one to practice your technical abilities. But in GT3 machines, perhaps these machines are a little bit too fast and a little bit too aerodynamically reliant in order to go racing around here, but I'm sure many of our drivers will try to prove the opposite when they do go racing. And as we look to Daniel Pais, he makes his way on out on turn number 4, and up the rise he goes. Well, the checker flag comes out, ladies and gentlemen, and you know what time it is? It is time for us to go into qualifying. 15 minutes or 4 laps, whichever expires first for all of our drivers. But who is going to be on pole? Well, let's find out. So as the drivers make their way into qualifying, the clock strikes already and starts to tick away, and everyone will be very eagerly trying to make their way out, including the privateer from Downforce Racing, Lawrence Marsh, the Welshman in the 222 machine, as he makes one through that absolutely brilliant livery there. The contrast of the green, lime green, strong yellow, and also the black on the car, really making its mark here. And as he roars his way out onto this warm-up lap, what can we expect here today? Well, firstly, we should point out there's also a qualifying ban in effect for Satinder Diensa, who I don't believe is going to be on the grid today due to personal circumstances, so therefore we'll be seeing the current driver back on the grid as of the next round. And we should correct a small error we made in the broadcast last week with regards to the Diensa brothers of both Satinder and Shaminda, in the fact that we did refer to what was Satinder as being, and I do believe this is what we said last time, being the older brother out of the two of them. In fact, he's the younger brother of the two, and we'll have the chance to catch up with the Tiki SimSport Garage drivers as part of that conversation. Then there was a bit of running banter with regards to who's the brother of whom at Tiki SimSport, including what was Jack Taylor, as we see here in the Tiki SimSport Porsche 992, saying it was the older brother of Alex Hill, and well, that's not real in reality, but I think they're just a little bit of joking around going down in the garage. And the mood in the Tiki SimSport Garage absolutely electric, as it always is, and I'm sure we'll have Greg Zenhai in the chat at some point, tuning in as well via the Twitch chat and also feeding information to his drivers. He is the team principal, and well, as we do see Taylor making his way on through at turns 8, 9 up towards 10 and 11. What can we expect in terms of the cars? Well, this is a handling circuit. The number of power zones available to our drivers around here are very limited, so we are expecting the handling machines to really be the ones to put the car on pole over a single lap. The Porsche 992 will be number one up there, we're expecting, given the fact this car is the ultimate cornering machine. Engine placed over the rear axle, of course the standard design of Porsche, minus the Porsche 911 RSR GT machine. The standard design is rear engine, rear wheel drive, albeit you've got other cars that mid-engine rear drive, such as the Audi R8 Evo 2, with the engine located further behind the car in order to distribute the weight perfectly for naturally giving you rotation through the quarters. So we're expecting the Porsche to be the top machine here to beat. However, we are also expecting the Lamborghini Huracan Evo and the Audi R8 Evo 2 to be very strong around here. And then we do have the middle of the field cars, such as the Ferrari 296, the mid-engine rear-wheel drive machine from Italy. That does seem to have a bit of a habit of not being the strongest car in terms of handling, but not being the strongest car on the straights. It's become a bit of a jack-of-all-trades, master of number. A very stable car with that. We do see Matt Edmondson roaring his way down the back straight and in towards turn number 5 as he heads onto the brakes here. And well, the Ferraris could go well here today. And the same could be said for the BMW M4. It's a very stable car, albeit not the best handling car, but also a car that can be confidently pushed around the circuit. And then we do have always the McLaren MP4 12C as piloted by Ryan Davies here, and as he makes his way around for the wrong stuff in the old school British machine, which many wonder when we'll see the McLaren 720 Evo come into the simulator, given the fact that this car now is effectively 4 generations old in the world of GT3 racing. The MP4 12C still run a V8 bi-turbo all the way out to modern day, but right now, if he's able to now his qualifying laps, he could be a pole sitter, because this car is a car that needs to be driven on the edge. But when it is driven right to limit, it is a very fast machine indeed, and we look forward to seeing what he'll be able to do here. And we also do have the Mercedes AMG Evo from 2022 being piloted by Rob Armstrong, going very deep there into turn number 8. I think setting himself up for another run shortly and trying to get more tyre temperature in to the car before he goes on to his first main flying lap that he's going to commit to. We've already got lap times coming in from a number of our drivers, and well, Alex Moore putting the board as high as possible on a 28.274. I think we've still got plenty more to come from our drivers before we do get to the end of qualifying. But speaking of on-board lap, we're going to be jumping on board with Kev Islet as he takes us around for a flying lap of the Okayama Circuit. He makes his way down towards turn number 1 into first corner and breaking up what would be approximately 100 metres from corner apex down to second gear. Sensitive to the throttles, he powers his way on through, and now as he makes his way in towards turn number 2, onto the brakes, third gear here as he rotates the car in plenty of apex curve, feeding the throttle in and letting the car run nicely to the exit curve as he's now flat out through the Moss S here from left into right and then back to left-hand king. We're going in towards Atlee corner, onto the brakes here, 100 metres from corner apex down to second gear. Nice early apex, and now stamp the throttle down, and you've got to rely on the rotation of the car and the camber of the rotor, push on through, and up through the gearbox still goes as he makes his way down the back straight. Underneath the Lexus billboard and in towards turn number 5, keeping the guy over to the left-hand side to get himself set up for the hairpin. Then we break in here about 100 metres from corner apex all the way down the gearbox to first gear, the slice corner on the circuit. Nice midpoint apex there, and as he powers his way out, now over to the right-hand side, into revolver, through into left-hander, holds second gear, just feed the throttle in, flat out for a brief moment, and onto the brakes about 40 metres from corner apex, into turn at number 7, second gear held, and now up to third gear. It's a short run down towards turn at number 8, and now into the switchback hairpin sequence of turns 8 to 9, late apex here in first gear, and now bring the car immediately over to the left for turn number 9, onto the brakes once again, down to first, try and go for a late apex, takes a little bit of understeer with him there, as you can see the corner being off camber on the elevation rise, and that causes class and actually fall away from the circuit. And through third gear he goes at turn number 10, and now down to second for the final corner. And that is a lap of the Okayama International Racing Circuit, brought to you by Kev Eyelid. It's a smooth lap there, but what's it going to be when he crosses the timeline? Well, in the end, it is going to be, I do believe, still holding P26. In fact, drops P27 now, but he does improve to a 30.311. A couple of small errors in there, but I don't think he's going to be too abashed at those, as he now makes his way onto what for Islet will be, I do believe, his third flying lap, as meanwhile we've got Alex Millward into the pit lane, and that was going on to his final flying lap. So I think Millward gets a reset out of the pit lane, so I do believe he's going to have another lap available. But Ryan Davies, meanwhile, one of the big stars of this qualifying session so far, and if you're wondering why, it's because he's currently P2 overall, your pro pole sitter, provisional pole sitter that is, and well, with time starting to head into the second half of the qualifying session, in terms of the laps available for our drivers, a lot of our drivers here absolutely giving it everything as they make the way on around. Are we expecting some more surprises before all is said and done? We'll have to see, as here comes Davis once again. Can he improve a little bit further from where he is? Could he potentially even snatch away pole position? We're going to use half a second off of Millward's time. I don't think so, as he does improve by attempt to a 28.518. But right now, Alex Millward, the fastest driver out there for Effect Simulations, and well, he is on what will be his final warm-up lap before he goes on to his final flying laps available to him. In the fact he came into the pits after what was his second lap out there, and the Porsche 992 driver right now giving it everything. Remembering, of course, that James Armstrong is not permitted to qualify in this session due to a qualifying ban, and well, Haroldas Jotautas tries to respond as he completes his second flying lap at 28.353. He's immediately gone on to another one here as he makes his way on around, and well, as he does so going through the Moss S. Meanwhile, elsewhere, James Conley, the fastest AM driver, currently P16 overall. And to show you how the top 35 fits together, well, right now we do have the best part of which 37 drivers in attendance, only 32 have got valid laps on the board, and well, for James Conley, P17 could be where he qualifies so far, and if so, the AM pole sitter, he's going to be 5 places clear of what will be sister UKSimRacing driver of Matt Edmondson, who would be P2 in the class P22, and it's a long way back to Neil Jack, John Davis and John Doval, who sit P26 through to P28. So right now, Conley absolutely blazing his way around here as the timer does hit the halfway point of the qualifying session, but I think we're going to see this qualifying session end well before that, as he heads in towards turn number 8 and back to 9. Going through left and into right here. Meanwhile, we do look to Simon Andre Livingston, a fellow Ferrari driver for Racing Lab Esports. He comes down in towards turn number 8 and the number 23. Currently P18, just ahead of Lawrence Marsh by the best part of what is 100, if that, in fact 9,000 to be a bit more accurate. But the point being that Livingston and Marsh a bit off the pace compared to Zelby and the fellow drivers in the group. But Marvin Cruz is the fastest prime out there currently. He's currently P5 overall, and well, as we bring those class standings back onto your screen, looking very fast leading that Porsche 992, around being what is 2.5 tenths off in P8, and as Cruz makes his way down the back straight, well, he is currently on his final flying lap and looking to go even faster here before all is done. And as he comes through the right and in to the left here, will now get himself absolutely set and ready to go. But I don't think he's going to be finding too much more time out there, or if he is, could he potentially snatch away what would be a spot on the second row of the grid? That'd be the highest we've seen from a prime driver this season. Well, as he makes his way towards the end of the lap, we look to John Davis, who comes towards the end of his final flying lap. He's improved over the majority of it, but what's it going to be here from Davis as he heads across the timeline? It's P2 in the AM class, P22 for the McLaren driver on a 29.613. Is it enough to hold on to P2 in the class? He's still 4 places down on Conley, but he has cut the deficit to his 2.5 tenths. I think he'll feel positive in that. Meanwhile, Reece Saunders only on his second flying lap at the moment, the elite driver, so leaving it a bit late in the session as he goes a bit wide out of the final corner. But what can Saunders do here? Can he put himself right up there? We've only got 5 elite drivers in attendance today. We cross to the timeline, and as he does, what's it going to be for Saunders? It's P16. He's got more time to improve compared to his peers, but the problem is right now being a whole 1.1 seconds almost off of Miller's pole time overall, and being 9 tenths off of the time set by Haroldas Jotautas for P3. Saunders is going to need to find a bit more time out there if he wants to be in the hunt. Otherwise, he's going to be hunting his way through the field, much like James Armstrong will be from the back of the field. But as we do get towards the end of the 10th minute of this qualifying session, a couple of drivers still out there on laps, including Alan Lever. The majority of the field has finished qualifying already, including Ryan Davies, who's your provisional pole sitter. The only driver potentially to throw him at this point. In fact, I don't think anybody can. In fact, John Eddowes can. Let's correct ourselves there, who's currently down in P11 of the pro class, or P25. Was Lever makes his way down, the focus of our cameraman's attention right now. He's currently P3 prime, P10 overall, and still finding some more time in the Lamborghini. He's only 3 thousandths of a Chris Round rounds P2 time in the class, and indeed the separation between the two could be cut more finely with a knife if he tried. But as he makes his way on for return at number 7 right now, he'll be hoping that he can find just a bit more time to get closer to Cruz, and well, with that, get one step ahead of Chris Constable, the championship leader who's not here today. And well, for Alan Levitt, could be a grand opportunity to try and close that gap down. As he heads to return at number 9, the Lamborghini with that Audi engine in the rear of it right now, giving everything it can, all 10 cylinders absolutely blasting and roaring. And when he comes into the final corner, what's it going to be here for Lever as he comes to the line? He's improved in sector 1, he's improved in sector 3, but he hasn't in sector 2. What about the final sector as he crosses the timeline? What's it going to be for Lever this time around? Well, in the end, it's not going to be enough to improve. We have one more chance. This is Reece Saunders into the pit lane. P11 will be where he starts today, 8/10 down the overall lap time, but still getting himself nice and close to the top 10. But Lever is on. Where's the bad lap? I believe Reece Saunders, in fact, has reset to the pits. I think he's actually had another lap added to his count as a result in terms of the laps available. And meanwhile, Jack Barkey yet to get a lap time on the board. The second place driver in the AM Championship in the Ford GT, looking to try and find some time now. And surely there's got to be a banker lap here that he goes for, because if he doesn't get a lap on the board, he's going to be starting all the way from the very back of the order, much like Connor Craven, who's not put a time in, nor has Jonathan Tighe, and indeed James Armstrong's not fit to put a time in. So Barker right now, this is going to be hanging on a thread here, and well, he might have to try and work some magic in terms of strategy if he wants to try and find a way to close down Conley, because if Conley takes the win today, it's definitely going to give him a lot more momentum, and it could mean that championship is creeping out of the grasp of anybody else other than the Ferrari driver. But Barker into the final corner here as he comes out of the last corner on towards the start finish straight he goes. The Ford GT straight line speed not really been able to capitalise at this circuit, so therefore it looks like he might be up against the odds, but he crosses the timeline. And what's it going to be here? He goes P2, he leaves it all to the last lap available. It's a 29.589, and it's P23 on the grid for Jack Barker. Meanwhile, it's going to be Alan Lever who comes out the final corner. He pulls over immediately. He's not happy with that lap, and Lever in the end is not going to improve, so he will take P3 in the Prime class, P10 overall. And well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, the only driver now on a valid lap is Reece Saunders as he heads to the timeline, and we jump aboard here with Saunders for a flying lap from the elite driver in the Porsche 992. He makes his way up to turn at number 1 and braking nice and hard here all the way down the third gear as Cloud falls over the circuit and powering his way out of the corner, using the momentum change to put the Porsche to his advantage in towards turn number 2. Through left-hander he goes and out of the corner, runs a bit wide there, and for Saunders that's going to immediately be a disallowed lap, and for Saunders qualifying will come to an abrupt end there, and that is going to be it, ladies and gentlemen. Qualifying is complete, and here is your pole sitter as he crosses the line on a practice lap. Alex Milward in the end taking pole position over on the elite class on a 28.161, and well, that will be good enough for pole by a 10th in the end over Jack Taylor, with row number 2 going to Haroldas Jotautas, and your pro pole sitter of Ryan Davies in the end takes pole by almost 2/10 over Tom Weston, who should get a special shout out as his best qualifying performance of the season from the driver who starts P6 or P2 in the Pro class. And between the two of them will be your Pro and pole sitter of Marvin Cruz in what is going to be a top 6 locked out by Porsche 992s. And well, the first variety car will be coming in P8 on the grid, and it will be Alex Hill in the Audi R8 Evo 2. So line up with our expectations, and we'll give them the importance of qualifying at this circuit. Right now, our pole sitters will be feeling quite confident that they can potentially turn that pole position into a class, if not an overall win. And well, James Conley, of course, being your pole sitter in the AM class, P19 in the Ferrari 296. But as we do see Davis coming to a halt, and well, Alex Milward right now making his way on around here. And only a minute left on the clock. Indeed, all drivers, I think, taking a breather whilst they can before they get required to go back into the pit lane before making their way out onto the grid. In terms of other surprises out there in this qualifying session, Ollie Pinley starting P31 in the Porsche 992 and being P12 in the Pro class. John Edo's P11 in the Pro class, P26 overall, as we show you those overall top 35 standings there. And indeed, we can see some surprises elsewhere. Khalid Ramadan starting P13 in what has been a better qualifying performance compared to some recent rounds for Ramadan, but the Somsport driver is going to have some hard work ahead of him. And also we see Chris Round there, P9 overall, and he's going to be starting P2 in the Prime class for Alan Lever alongside him on that 5th row of the grid. But Marvin Cruz taking his first Prime pole position of the season, and that P5 start for Cruz surely has got to be something that is a sign of success to come. But as we get set, we haven't got long here. 20 seconds of this qualifying session left, albeit no drivers out on circuit at the moment. And a little bit of trivia for you guys and girls tuning at home. This circuit was renamed in what was 2005 to the Okayama International Circuit. It was previously known as the TI Circuit in reference to the company that had purchased the circuit of its previous private owners for the purposes of sponsorship reasons. But unfortunately, the private company TI, who were owning the circuit as of that time, ran out of funds, and therefore there had to be a change of ownership and a change of name as a result. But speaking of changing sessions, we changed to going through the grid order, and this is how our drivers line up for round number 6 of the UKSimRacing GT3 League Season 12. It is Alex Milward who takes pole position for effect simulations on a 28.161, and 1/10 behind him will be Jack Taylor for Tiki Simsport Tower. On row number 2 will be Haroldas Jotautas for Absolute Motorsport Ace Live, joined by pro pole sitter of Ryan Davies for Tiki Simsport Car Marte, and then we have on row number 3 your prime pole sitter, his first pole position of the season, Marvin Cruz for Old Dudes in Cars Blue, joined by DCW Racing's Tom Westermer's season best qualifying performance. Casper Rotner and Alex Hill for Old Dudes in Cars Black and Tiki Simsport Kimmy respectively line up on your fourth row, with row number 5 to complete your top 10 being the form of Chris Round for Leroy Jenkins, and with Alan Lever for UKSimRacing Stewart. We then have on row number 6 Reece Saunders for Altitude Esports, head of Darren Sharples for Old Dudes in Cars Blue, and then behind them on row number 7 it's Khalid Ramadan for Sommersport and Jeff Griffiths for Built Visible Racing, with Nicholas Rice for Destino Motorsports in his weakest qualifying performance of the season, starting at P15 ahead of Rob Selby for UKSimRacing Stewart. Matt Hisley starts P17 for Soshi Motorsports, head of Racing Lab Esports is Simon Andre Livingston, with the top 20 being rounded out by Ann pole sitter of James Connolly, the UKSimRacing Mansell, and Lawrence Marsh the privateer. P21 it'll be Casper Tunstead for Peak Sim Racing ahead of Old Dudes in Cars Black Daniel Pays, with Jack Barker and John Davies, the two AM drivers, starting P23 and P24, with the wrong stuff driver being followed up by P25 UKSimRacing Stewart's Matt Edmondson, and then behind them will be Tiki Simsport Tyres John Eddowes. We then have UKSimRacing Mansell's Rob Armstrong ahead of Steinar Sunny for Racing Lab Esports on the 14th row, with Neil Jack and John Doble on row number 15, and the Tiki Simsport Kimmy drive is followed up by Ollie Pinley for Symphony Esports and TART's at Kev Eilid. Neil Smith and what is the UKSimRacing Mansell drive's rival Chris Bates start on the 17th row, ahead of James Armstrong for Bradman Esports and Connor Crane for Olympus Esports, and on the final row of the grid it's Jonathan Tighe for Team Tighe, starting P37. But as our grid begins to wind its way away behind the pace car, ladies and gentlemen, it's only a partial formation lap, and indeed we're going to be very quickly going racing here today, and it'll be Alex Milward who takes us to the green very shortly as our overlay refreshes to get the circuit map that always proves to be a bit shy before we go racing back into the top right corner of the screen. But with what is 37 cars here and the best part of over 10,000 horsepower ready to roar in Japan, it's Alex Milward who takes us to the green, and when he does so, who'll be victor after 60 minutes? Let's find out. And it's lights out and away we go as he leaves it late as Milward, but it's lights on the green, and as they roar their way down towards turn number 1, Milward under pressure and Taylor, but Taylor more so under the pressure and Jotautas as they make their way into the opening corner. Ryan Davies trying to go around the outside, and as he does so trying to set the run up to the inside as Overfield makes it safely through turn number 1 by looks things, and as they roar their way through turn number 2, Davies does get ahead of Jotautas. Meanwhile further behind we can see here Darren Sharples and Khalid Ramadan immediately battling, but it's going to be Ramadan who finds his way ahead as they make their way into the Moss S for the first time of asking. Meanwhile just in front Alan Lever and Chris Round as well, battling side by side under braking. Leroy Jenkins driving in the Audi, having to back off as Lever looks at a move to try and take P2 in the prime class nice and early, but it's not over between these two yet, as Lever right now does have to try and hold position on the outside, but you can see their round backs off as they make their way down towards turn number 5 into the first heavy braking zone of the lap, and as they come down, Reece Saunders there looking for a move up the inside of round, going all in here as they all come down to the anchors. Further behind we can see James Connie steering clear on the outside as Rice is going to be passing at Rob Selby there just in front of him, with Casper Tunstead and Hisley fighting for position as they come down for a revolver corner. Orva drives safely for a couple of tries, running slightly wide, that's not going to upset them. Tunstead meanwhile trying to hold off Rice through turn number 7, does so as they make their way up towards turn number 8, onto the brakes they go, and Rice under pressure from Hisley who looks on the inside. The Destino Motorsports driver here goes deep with 90 cent up front to the inside for turn number 9. Hisley's now got to go the long way around, arguably the harder corner to go around the outside as it's off camber and uphill, and as they come out of turn number 9, Rice holds on. The Destino Motorsports driver doing a great job there for the American outfit as he makes his way through the right hand and now down towards turn number 11, and as he comes through the right hand, that's the first lap of the race complete, and they roll the way into lap number 2. Well, as they go onto the second lap, it's Milward who still leads in the elite and overall categories ahead of Jack Taylor, followed by Ryan Davies, your leading pro driver P3. Their Haroldas Jotautas P4, Brian Leader, Marvin Cruz P5, ahead of Tom Weston P6, Alex Hill P7, Casper Rottner P8, Alan Lever P9, Reece Saunders P10, Vesteris P11 is Chris Round, and then your AM leader is James Conley, who right now trying to hold on to P19 ahead of Simon Andre Lewis and Lawrence Marsh, as these two fight over with P6 in the prime class. As they make the way through left into right and up towards Attlee Corner they go. Well, meanwhile, Jack Barker is not wasting any time and trying to make some progress as he looks up the inside there of John Eddowes to hold on to P23. Eddowes right now has made some progress at the start of this race, gained 1 place in class, 2 overall, and the BMW M4 driver Tiki Swinsport trying to make even more progress, as meanwhile that is going to be met hastily on the inside of Rob Selby down into turn number 5. Side by side they're going to break in, and well, as they do, it's a slightly camber corner. You'll notice the way the road ducks down to the apex, and therefore going on the outside is not a bad idea. Rob Selby pulls that off with Blom. Meanwhile, it's going to be Hisley versus Rice in towards turn number 7. Rice taking a look on the inside, but he can't quite find it at the moment. Has to back out on the run to the short stretch up towards the hairpin switchback sequence of turns 8 and 9. But meanwhile, this is going to be battle side by side. There you can see Marsh trying to get the move on Armstrong to defend, but Armstrong going outside to inside, just in front of them. It's going to be James Conley battling with Simon Andre Livingston, but it's going to be Livingston who goes deep at 9, and as a result, it's going to be with Armstrong making his way out the inside. Another place game for James Armstrong. Armstrong already up 15 places overall, and right now the 5th place elite driver starting from the back of the field is absolutely cutting his way through like a knife through hot butter, and as he makes his way down the start finish line straight up towards turn 1, he looks for another move here versus James Conley, the AM leader, and I think Conley's not going to fight this too hard. As meanwhile, Jack Barker looking around the outside of where's Lawrence Marsh, who went defence on the inside. It's upset the momentum for Barker. Now he's going to have Eddowes looking around the outside, and the pro driver eager to make progress. Already you can see just how much time battling costs two drivers here as they make their way side by side out to turn 2 through the moss as they go, and Barker right now wouldn't be surprised there's going to be a small lift here, albeit a very small lift, in order to make sure that Eddowes can just get ahead before the braking zone for turn number 4. But as they come out to the long right hander and onto the back straight they go. Will mean while we look our way further down the order to Neil Smith, who's had a bit of a difficult start to this race in terms of qualifying, but is starting to make amends to UKSimRacing mantle as he makes his way down the back straight. He's currently P6 in the AM class, P32 overall, and he's chasing after Ollie Pimbley, the pro driver, just in front of Symphony Esports as they come down in towards turn number 5. As they come in towards the right hander, all of our drivers at this moment in time now starting to settle down into room with 4 minutes in. But the point being here, as we mentioned earlier on, overtaking means so challenging at the best of times for the Okayama circuit. I would imagine now the focus is going to turn more and more very rapidly onto the strategy. And if the rumour is true that a no-stop is potentially possible here, I wonder if the one-stop drivers who may opt to change tyres as well, maybe considering how early they can pit in this race, potentially looking to pit when the opening 15 minutes to give themselves plenty of clear track. But of course you need to time it right, because if many a driver does so, then it doesn't become an effective strategy anymore if you get caught in the traffic of others you go racing. So therefore this definitely could be one of those races whereby it's won or lost on strategy rather than what happens in the early stage of the race. But meanwhile, as we look to Lawrence Marsh, he makes his way down at the start, finish straight in towards turn 1, with John Eddowes trying to take a little bit of a glimpse onto the inside, trying to say to Marsh, look, I'm coming through, be ready for it. But Marsh right now has got his head fixated on one thing only, and that's the rear of the Race Lab Esports Ferrari 296. And Simon Andre Livingston tries to keep it at bay in the battle for P6 in the prime class, making the way through the Moss S and in towards turn number 4 here. Onto the brakes they go. Well, as they do so, no change at the moment. And tyre wear is also going to be a considerable factor here. In fact, our drivers will need to protect their tyres over race, particularly if they're looking to go for that no-stop. There's no opportunity to change the tyres, but also there are a large number of traction zones at this circuit, particularly where the left rear tyres take the brunt of the pain, and that's going to be the tyre that is going to be the one that's most exposed later on in the racing, particularly when it comes to the final few minutes, and that's where you might end up with that power oversteer as you come out to, say, turn at number 5, alternatively making your way out to the uphill right-hander return at number 9. As Marsh continues to follow Livingston in through turn number 7 and up towards turn number 8 they go. Meanwhile, we look back to your race leader here. 2 seconds clear right now is Alex Millward, and continue to romp away at the front of the field. The Effect Simulations driver giving it everything, setting purple sector after purple sector, and as he goes on to what will be for him lap number 5, well, the clock strikes 6 minutes complete, and as he does so, what's this lap going to be this time around? It's a 28.678, so right now giving it everything here, lapping approximately half a second faster than the rest of the field and opening that gap up. And meanwhile, James Armstrong trying to look for his way past another driver, looking to battle his way past with Rob Selby on the outside, or in fact the inside of the run down towards turn 1. I would imagine that Selby potentially there picking up a slowdown penalty for track limits, and meanwhile Hesley now has got to be confronted by James Armstrong. As Armstrong makes his way out of turn number 2, we jump on board with the Audi R8 Evo 2 drivers. He tries to make his way up another place, and with the fact he's already halved his deficit to the front of the field in the opening 4 laps of racing, it goes to show you just how much pace Armstrong is bringing to the table. And on paper right now, does he need to win this this race today? No, he just needs to finish and get some good points on the board, although these points will most likely become his drop score of the season. But as he heads down towards turn number 5, the thing about Armstrong, of course, is it's the racer inside him. He wants to win everything as he looks for a very late move in towards turn number 5. And well, there's a bit of contact, I think, to the rear of the Lamborghini of Hisley, thinking he can go from long distance. But there's anything we know about Hisley, he's the master of the late breakers just as much as Armstrong in that pro class. And Hisley right now will be looking at his rearview mirrors and thinking, right, if that's how it's going to be, now I've got to be more aware of it as they make their way in towards turn number 8. But Armstrong here looking to set up the run round the outside of the hairpin. No success so far as they head to turn number 9. But meanwhile, a bit of drama further down the order, and I believe there's been a spin for the Ford GT of the privateer of Jack Barker in the 163 as he tries to get the car turned around. I'm also hearing in my head there's been an off track at a similar point in time for John Doble. Did the two have it coming together? Well, we're going to find out very shortly, as here is the replay. So as he's making his way in towards turn number 6, here coming off of the exit curve, and we're into turn 7. At the rear of the car, letting go as he came off the entry curve into centre, and Barker going around, and with that pulling the car immediately onto the grass. The incident for John Doe being a completely separate incident by comparison. We'll try and understand what happened there very shortly. Meanwhile, James Armstrong still trying to find his way past Matt Hisley. The two of them were battling side by side into what was turn number 1 only moments ago off camera, and here's a quick replay of how their battle played out. Well, here is the replay, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, they made the way down in towards turn number 11. Well, it was off track there. In fact, not a battle between Hisley and Armstrong. It was an error for Casper Tunstead, who run wide out last corner, and as a result, Armstrrong there had to take slight evasive action in order to make sure not to go into contact with the driver who was recovering. Meanwhile, just behind Nicholas Rice was looking for a move into turn 1. He couldn't quite find it for Destina Motorsports, despite the fact we did see Tunstead go quite deep, and Rice switching back to the inside, but not able to get full leverage along the inside in towards turn number 2. As we now return to your live racing pictures, and we look to James Armstrong making further progress. We look back to Nicholas Rice, who continues to find himself chasing after what is none other than Tunstead as they made the way up the hill, and behind a long line of cars started to queue up behind Tunstead. You've got Rice, Conley, Andre Livingston, also there Marsh and Eddowes, all waiting for an opportunity to make the way through. Nobody yet thinking about diving to the pits. It's too early to do so by looks of things. I think many a driver here right now looking for that opportunity to try and find their way to leapfrog the field if they can. And what we have to report, ladies and gentlemen, that unfortunately Conor Craven and Jonathan Tighe both not making it onto the grid today due to technical issues with their cars, as we're to understand it. So therefore, there were a grand total of 35 starters, and currently we still have 35 runners. Ollie Pimley into the pit lane for Symphony Esports, and well, the car being retired there by the looks of things, we're not sure. I mean, that might have been an internet connectivity issue, and therefore Pimley are signalling the first pit stop of the day on strategy. And could that be a way to make his way on through? I think it might be. Alternatively, it could be a further jump to the pits. In fact, I think we're getting confirmation they've had to retire the car for Symphony Esports due to a technical issue they found with the caution line too. And if so, that's very unfortunate. And well, that does mean we have lost our first driver from this race who started the race. As we look to Chris Round here running P11 overall, P3 in the prime class. He's chasing after Reece Saunders, but his bigger target is Alan Lever, who's just in front of Saunders, the second place prime driver, as they've made the way up towards turn number 8. Now, as they do so, we do say hello to a couple more of you in the Twitch and YouTube chats, including what is there, Kieran Lowe in the YouTube chat, wishing everyone the best luck. Also, Nicolai Aragard, who is cheering on Racing Lab. Also, James at Vostok GP2, who is wishing the best luck to all drivers for tonight's racing. Also there too, Kenneth Alserud, who is cheering on Racing Lab Esports. And speaking of Racing Lab, because it's only fair that we do show you Simon Andre Livingston here as the driver from Norway continues to try and fend off Lawrence Marsh, and in return still running in the tow of what is James Conley just in front of him and everybody right now in this long line of cars. Nobody really able to gain or lose, although saying that John Eddowes right now as we ride on board and look inside the car of the TC Tower driver. Well, here is your 10th place pro driver right now trying to find a way past Marsh, and as he makes his way into his right-hander return at number 1. They're getting eager here in the BMW M4. We know this BMW's got a lot of straight line acceleration available to it, but the problem is it just hasn't got the cornering capabilities of the Porsche in front, and that is just keeping it at bay to a degree as they've made their way through the Moss S sequence up towards Attlee. As they head on to not Attlee, Atwood. Let's not get confused with a British Prime Minister there. As they make the way out to turn number 4 and over the rise they go. Right now the Britain driver absolutely charges his way on through, but again whilst he gain here down the back straight, it's a short back straight compared to what you would like to be able to run on, and therefore no way through, particularly when the BMW hasn't got strong brakes of the Porsche, and therefore he's got to do it the hard way in terms of trying to get Marsh to make a mistake. Meanwhile, from them, it's a side-by-side battling here between Christer and Ramadan as they head down towards turn number 8 here on the brakes. They go around on the inside. Ramadan, meanwhile, looking outside to inside here. The Somsport driver in the Ferrari. He's gone a little bit deep and has to tuck in behind, but right now round under increasing pressure to make progress and break away as Darren Sharples now starts to get in the hunt here after Ramadan. The key point being that Sharples and Ramadan both in the Pro class, and they're going to be fighting for position as they make the way on around onto this next lap. So right now, Chris Round could be the key to either Ramadan or Sharples holding on to that P5 Pro position as they head down towards turn number 1. And as they do so, offline there was Alan Lever, I think, trying to perhaps cool the tyres down slightly by not running in the dirty air of another driver in front. And if so, a bit of an odd way to do so, given the distance he's got to what it is in front of him, Casper Grotner. But still, he may know something we don't, with regards to the calling of that Lamborghini. In fact, I think he might be trying to serve a slowdown penalty there, Lever, because he's going very slowly out of turn number 2. And well, he's now caught the car in terms of built up the pace, but up the inside looks really Saunders. Lever's going to have to leave the door open as Saunders goes for it. No, this is the only opportunity he's going to get. And as they make the way down the back show, it's now going to be a drag race. The Lamborghini with a slight little bit more in terms of leg power as they head down towards the turn 5 braking zone. As they get ready to head on to the anchors here. On the rear of the pitch, you can see there a little peek from Sharples versus Ramadan once again, but in goes Saunders. Lever stays high, and as they come through turn number 5 into revolver they go. Well, right now it's going to be side by side all the way for the left-hander. Saunders in the end goes deep. He doesn't quite cut it back, and Lever keeps Saunders at bay, but this pushes him 3 seconds on the Casper Grotner, and in return, Saunders now forming at the head of a long queue of cars, all behind Alan Lever as they make the way around. James Armstrong looks like the inside of Jeff Griffiths onto the inside into turn 8, and now the Built Sport Racing driver has a face for the Brabham Esports Audi in front of him, and it's going to be interesting to see how Armstrong potentially deals with this situation as he now finds himself in a long line of what is 5 cars in front. But meanwhile, into the pits comes Reece Saunders. He decides it's not enough and he needs to come in and lead from this field now. And well, the Altitude Esports driver calls the first pit stop, and we do believe with certainty that this is the first strategic pit stop being triggered by a driver here today. And Saunders right now is going to have the run of the field here, given the fact he will come out in a lot of clear air as he gets ready to go once again. But we'll have to see how long this stop is for fuel, and also whether any tyres potentially go on the car. As meanwhile, we do look to Jack Barker as he follows after what is John Doe, with these two both having an instance at the same time as one another. Saunders leaving the pit lane, we should point out already as he comes past my commentary booth window. 10.4 seconds was the stationary time for Saunders, so very little fuel going in the car. Well, given that amount of time in the pits, we suspect it is a one-stop strategy here today rather than a no-stop, given that it's a lot of time he spent putting fuel in the car. But right now, as we look to this battle in the AM class, we'll have battle of P6 of the AM class, one of the closer ones out of circuit, and Reece Saunders has come out ahead of this by 5 seconds, but he's bought himself a huge amount of clear track time because he is 4 seconds off of Chris Bates in front. Meanwhile, here battling side by side, Nicholas Rice and Casper Tunstead, as Rice looking to take the position of Tunstead for P8 in the Pro class. He's got it done and moves up to P17 overall. But how exactly was the move made in the first place? But we'll have to wait and see. We have got a replay being queued up. But meanwhile, the Destino Motorsports driver is under pressure from Tunstead in towards the hairpin switchback. A little bit of a tap there from the rear, and as he makes his way up the hill, Tunstead backing off now. But in return, he's got James Conley, also there, Andre Livingston, Lawrence Marsh. Meanwhile, going around the outside of Marsh is John Eddowes, who looks for it, but in the end takes a trip to the grass. He avoids the wall, but I think Eddowes a little bit enthusiastic with the throttle pedal there, and in the end being caught out as everybody queuing up behind was the battle of Rice and Tunstead, and Eddowes paying the price for it as a result, as meanwhile Armstrong has found his way past with Darren Sharples down into turn number 1 off camera, and was they make the way on down. Well, in the YouTube chat earlier, we did see Andre Livingston saying, not my best qualifying, but this is going to be a hard race, and we'll definitely right now the Race Lab Esports driver having a hard day at the office, battling with Lawrence Marsh behind him, and was they make the way through the left hand there at turn number 2. We also say hello to Suicidal Sloth 87 asking about the 5 elite drivers, and indeed we've had a number of elite drivers retire from the series as of the previous round going into this round due to personal circumstances. For those we have remaining, it's still fantastic to see all 5 of them out there, as we also say hello there to RSR Racing 91, and we'll hope you guys are doing well. Also to Agan, and I do believe that we also do have, I think that's everyone covered now, but looking from our chats all the way down to Where's Our Racing once again, and as we do, meanwhile, Pro-Am drivers trying to make some progress. Rob Armstrong behind Stein Arsani, the other Race Lab Esports driver in the Pro-Am class here in the UKSimRacing Mansell Mercedes right now, trying to show that it's got a bit of life left in it in terms of trying to pick off places here, and all the 2 power machines nose to tail as they make the way through turn number 7, but for Armstrong it definitely is going to be a battle of attrition as they make the way in towards the braking zone. But as they do, well, meanwhile, we've got a couple of replays to take a look back at, including how Nicholas Rice found his way past Casper Tunstead and this was only moments to go for P8 in the pro class. So they made their way down the back straight towards turn 5. Rice having the overspeed, late on the brakes. And since they're trying to hold the outside, but in the end, Rice picking the time and picking it well, and since they're just not able to carry enough momentum in order to fight back into Revolver corner, so Rice making the move happen there, and then shortly after, Jack Barker finding his way past John Doble in a similar fashion at turn number 5, albeit Doble doing well to use the camera of the road to hold the outside, but into turn 6 they went, and Barker fully committing to the outside, almost running into the gravel there. It was a power oversteer on the exit, but the privateer in the Ford making a move down, and indeed that could be an important move for later in the race. Return to your live pictures. Meanwhile, with a quarter of the race complete, we have it a pit stop for John Eddowes as he leaves the pit lane to look out Macron to move window. Some more pit stops playing out for drivers. Meanwhile, a bit further back here, we do have Kevin Eilert under pressure from Neil Jack, the privateer in the very colourful Porsche 992. It must be said, right now chasing after the pro driver. The AM still trying to make some progress. He's currently P5 in the AM class and will be on course for a season best performance today if he does bring the car home in its current position. He had a very strong qualifying session as well, and as he makes his way down the back straight, not quite able to get the overspeed on the BMW in front. And what we heard at Road Atlanta last week, the Porsche driver struggling to gain any time with the BMWs on the straight. And will that be articulated once again here in the situation of Eilert pulling away for Jack until the braking zone as they come out of turn 6 in towards 7. From then we do look back to the battle for P2 in the Prime class, and well, this is Dan Lever versus Chris Round. And Round continues to make progress, and in fact now it does seem as though Lever, after the slowdown he picked up earlier on, has now been brought back into the clutches of Round, and I think these two are starting to build up to what will be a close-knit battle. But I wonder if Lever is thinking about potentially going into the pit zone rather than fight this out on circuit, gain the race time if he can by returning to the track. But given the pit stops are very short here, in fact what we've seen is around an average of 10 seconds worth of stationary time, a 40 to 43 second pit stop in total. We would argue in this situation that in fact that is going to put you out somewhere in the back of the long snake train of cars, and it may not be advisable. So I think indeed all the drivers right now will be thinking instead about what would be in terms of positioning themselves for later on in the race, and perhaps trying to outlast their rivals on strategy. And particularly when you're on the front of the pack, you may just need to do that in terms of waiting to see when your rival pits rather than coming in yourself, because otherwise you can just lose the track time. We saw that at the Hockenheim ring. Though it pitted early, it did seem to be on a very absolute knife edge in terms of whether they actually gained any time. And if anything, the drivers who stayed out long or went in what is modern day terminology, the overcut, those are the ones who benefited the most. But Lever goes a bit deep now, turn 8 into 9. We ride on board and look back for the rear of the UKSimRacing Stuart Audi, not the Audi, powered by an Audi engine, but it is Lamborghini as they make the way in towards turn number 10, being chased by an Audi. And well, right now Chris Round close, ever so close, but it's no cigar when it comes to trying to look for a move, as they say, as he makes his way down towards turn number 1 once more. As they draw the way onto their 14th lap of racing around the Okayama Circuit, coming down onto the brakes. Meanwhile, elsewhere on circuit, we can tell you that James Armstrong has found his way past Khalid Ramadan quite recently, and well, we might try and get a replay of that very shortly if we can. And also in turn, Hisley has found his way past Jeff Griffiths, a change over position between the pro and the prime driver, as they weave their way through the Moss S's. Well, meanwhile, just behind it, we can see what is the growing battle between leader Ramadan and what is James Armstrong. In fact, they're staying close together right now as Armstrong's recently made his way on through, and we do leave Ramadan for a brief moment. He does rematerialise from the ether as they come down towards turn number 5. No way through at the moment. Meanwhile, you can see Brown's there in the foreground taking a little bit of a peek versus Lever, trying to get to his rival's head, but not quite able to find it at this time. And I've been very eager to try and make some progress, but the progress not forthcoming. As meanwhile, we do look back to show you the class standings on the left hand side of the screen to show you the top 7 order in each of the classes with the 7 more drivers available. And well, right now we do still see Millwood leading the elite class, Davies leading the pro class, Cruz leading the prime class, and Conley leading the AM class. As our drivers wind their way up from turns 8 to 9 on camera. As they do so, we do look to Ryan Davies, who's now increasing pressure in the battle for P3 overall versus Haroldas Jotautas as they make their way down the start and finish straight. And as they come down to their 22nd minute of racing, neither driver looking to give in here, but given the Tiki Sinsport car, Marte Joe was able to find his way through in the early stages. This has brought some breathing room to his teammate Jack Taylor from Tiki Sinsport, and right now I think Jotautas will be thinking about a potential plan B, given the fact he was not expecting the pro driver to get ahead over the opening couple of corners, and after that they have been in a degree of stalemate ever since. As he waits his way up through Atwood corner at turn number 4. Meanwhile, we do look from the pair here. Back down the order to what is the battle for P6 in the Prime class, or Lawrence Marsh versus 700 Livingston. And we ride on board the dashboard here of the Welshman, still where he's been for some time. He's getting very familiar with the back of that Ferrari as they make the way in towards that wood corner. But just in front of them, this might start to play into their hands. We do have what is Casper Tunstead starting to go a bit slowly compared to what is James Conley, the AM leader, and that may be a prime opportunity for him to look for a move in terms of Marshall Livingston gets caught up in the back of that battle. And to see if that plays out in practice, they make the way down to the braking zone here for turn number 5 into the hairpin. We can definitely see Conley getting very close to the back of Tunstead through the corner. So perhaps some tyre wears now kicking it. Meanwhile, Marsh looks to the inside. It's a feint to the inside to revolve the corner, trying to get Livingston to push himself deep into the corner's apex. And once they make the way on around, their wipers going on to Marsh to get rid of some of the stones and the dust that's gathered on the dashboard. But nothing more than that in the fact the rain's not due to come until the next season of race in the UKSimRacing GT3 League. More than that at the end of this season. And once they make the way on through turn double line and out they go. Right now, Marsh definitely getting eager to look for a move here, and Livingston in the meantime under increasing pressure as they head on down through last corner. As they do come from the right-hander, we've also got further battling here in what is the Pro class, and well, this is a P6 in the class. Darren Sharples under pressure for Old Dudes in Cars Blue from what is Sochi Motorsports met Hisley, and well, Hisley right now has got his target in his sights, and with Khalid Ramadan 1.5 seconds up the road, I think for Sharples he's going to feel as though right now he's in a bit of a lonely place and not be feeling very confident. Hisley looks inside, goes a win on the brakes. Sharples leaves the door open as he goes too long, and as a result, there's contact between the two of them. And well, Sharples in the end had nowhere to go. The road was run out for him, and Hisley in the end just couldn't get the car stopped in time. And well, it's going to be a frustrating one for the pair of them. I think Hisley will be kicking himself what was looking to be a sensational move, but in the end, the Lamborghini just not having the brakes in order to get the job done. But now as he returns to the race, it's going to be 3 wide as they make their way down towards the hairpin. When in Casper Tunstead just get ahead, there's your AM leader. Oh, but what is Conley? Is Meanwhile coming in very hard and fast. That is what I believe is Lawrence Marsh, but looking up the inside there as 700 Livingston, and in contact between the two of them, and Marsh thinking it was time to go for lunge when it certainly wasn't in the end, and we're backing out immediately after some contact between the two of them through fear of turning Livingston around. But definitely there, you can see tempers started to fray, and that's what happens when you spend a long time running behind a rival. In the end, the patience starts to wear thin, and it's exactly that for Lawrence Marsh. But as they make their way through turn number 9, he brings himself back together, and Livingston right now will be breathing a sigh of fresh relief in the fact that nothing too bad came out of that, but there will be damage to their cars, and could it affect the performance of the cars for later on in the race? That's always a question which will be hanging on the minds of both drivers. But as they come through and on to the next lap they go, roaring the way on down. This field stays as it is for now, but as they do, Matt Hisley definitely dodging a major worry about having James Conley get ahead down into the hairpin. But now he's got to find his way past another pro driver before he can go hunting after Nicholas Rice, and that will be Casper Tunstead who'll go hunting after. And indeed, Darren Sharp a bit further up the road, and Hisley right now getting himself back together as he's all over the rear. Tunstead looking this time on the inside into turn number 4. Does he get it stopped in time? No, he does, as it's a comeback from Tunstead, and there's just no grip available on that inside line to turn for it. We're saying he's tried it twice, and the Turkish driver right now just struggling to get the car stopped. And as they make their way down the back straight, well, now Tunstead only 2 tenths clear. Hisley will be figured out a potential move down into the hairpin. Does he do so? No, he doesn't. He stays behind now, and I think respecting the fact that right now those front tyres are definitely going to be hotter than they need to be, and the front brakes as well will not be giving him all the stoppage power that he would like to have as they make their way in towards turn 6 and 7. As they come back through the left hand and onwards they go towards the switchback hairpin sequence. Well, from there, very short as we can see, since they're going defensive for a brief moment. Wade Hisley will be looking up the inside. I think right now he may have his rival on his mind more than focusing ahead. Well, the UKSimRacing driver has got to keep his head down as they make their way out turn 9 and up towards turn 10. Whilst the battle is starting to intensify in this midfield, and we show you the overall standings once again on the left hand side of the screen. Given the fact we've got 34 runners, it does mean all of your running drives are shown there in our drives, all listed in that side, that top 35, as they make their way down towards turn number 1. Well, meanwhile, from the battling here, we do look up to Alex Hill, who right now has Casper Brotner close on him for P3 in the Pro class. And as they come through the right hand, Brotner close behind, looking for an opportunity to get involved. And Hill there, a little bit of power oversteer noticeably as he came out of that wood corner. And particularly since Kimi Drive got a problem with tyre temperatures at the rear. We know the Audi is very sensitive to tyre temperatures compared to some of its peers. The Porsche being in a bit of a sister situation, but they head it down to the brakes. Hill does seem to be worrying about something right now, and well, the pace versus Weston is started to drop off. Last lap it was 3 tenths, and with little squirms like that under rotation, I think Hill here has definitely got a car that's no longer in its comfort zone. As they make the way out to turn number 7 to show you the weather conditions right now, we can see that track temperature has risen by 2 degrees compared to qualifying. Ambient has remained at 24 degrees centigrade, and it is early hours of the morning, almost going towards 8 o'clock local time. But that track temperature rises up. This could start to be the undoing of a couple of machines that are worried about the tyre temperature, such as the TE6 for Kimi of Audi in the hands of Alex Hill in the 276. Makes his way down through turn at number 11 with Tom Weston there running very wide, almost going towards the gravel, coming out of last corner. Well, the DCW Racing Porsche driver giving it everything he can in order to break away and use this as an opportunity. He's of course got the challenge which is in front of him is the prime leader of Marvin Cruz, still holding on to P5, but it is the top 6 of what is Porsches right now. And then your 7th place car of Hill is the first one to buck the trend in the Audi R8, and then it's going to be the Porsche Casper on ahead of the Audi of James Armstrong, and he's moving closer and closer to the rest of the top 10. The drivers make their way on through, looking back to Brotner here. Another solid run coming through turn number 4, and the grip levels on the Dangerous car just seem to be in a world of their own in that Porsche compared to Hill as they make their way down the back string. You can see he's closing little by little. 2 tenths is the gap. Will he consider this an opportunity to look for a move? I don't think so, as he backs the car off slightly under braking and will just stay nice and firmly tucked behind the old Tutor car's black car, but keeping that pressure on as much as he dares to dream to do so. As meanwhile, making their way down the back straight, similar situation. This is the battle for P8 in the pro class of Tunstead versus Hisley. Tunstead puts the car in the middle of the road. Hisley looks to the inside, switching back now to the outside, and as he does so, Tunstead's going to defend hard, and Hisley's not going to be given any opportunity to run himself close to Tunstead into the apex. Tunstead knows exactly where to put the car in order to get his elbows out and say to Hisley effectively, well, given how we've raced previously, if we're going to race like this anymore, it's going to see us both going off the circuit. Hisley immediately back it out there, knowing that he doesn't want to gamble too much. They make the way towards turn number 8, and these two right now getting very fiery indeed. As meanwhile, your AM leader James Conley just watching on behind, with Lawrence Marsh and Daniel Page falling a bit further back by comparison, and the long queue of cars behind Tunstead has fallen back as meanwhile Hisley into the pits here and deciding enough's enough. He's got to do plan B, which is to make the overtake through strategy. Was he makes his way in to the pit lane, hitting the limiter line now. We do have a bit of a lock up there from other drivers coming through the corners. Meanwhile, Matt Edmondson pushing on P2 in the AM class here, on his way to redeeming himself afterwards that difficult end at Road Atlanta. Well, James Conley at the best part with 4 seconds up the road. Edmondson not out of touch of his class leader right now, and roaring his way out to turn 1 in towards 2. Well, from them we do have some further progress being made further up the order, and that being from Casper Brotner here and James Armstrong in particular behind, as we see the Audi R8 Evo 2 driver now looking for another opportunity as we ride on board the front bumper of the 47 from Brabham Esports, making his way on through turn 6, cutting off a huge sway with the apex curve there. All the drivers trying to really shorten down that corner revolver. Indeed, that's the aim of the game. If you keep 2 wheels on the race circuit, then you're very likely to be considered on track, and all the drivers knowing that you sometimes want to abuse those track limits in order to get the job done and get the best possible lap time. But Armstrong, as he gets ever closer to the back of the old duty cars, the number 11 building up speed here, coming in towards turn number 10 and 11. You can see Armstrong, he's got the pace there ready to pounce, but he's got to find the right time to do so, and we'll try and do so coming out of the corner here. But the X is the final corner, and right now 1.5 tenths is the gap. Is he going to be close enough to consider and move it into turn 1? Well, right now Armstrong decides not to, backs off completely there, saves himself a little bit of fuel and a little bit of tyre life as he comes down to turn 1. And as they make the way into 2, it's the exit out here that could give him the opportunity. Nice run towards the apex, but Brotner struggling mid-apex, and therefore Armstrong's opportunity not being seizable as he gets close to the cutback, but it's no chance saloon as he now hits his way through Moss S and in towards Atwood Corner. And as he does so, meanwhile, from them looking further up the road, this is Ryan Davies versus Haroldas Jotautas for P3, and the pro leader right now keeping the elite driver behind, and the gap to Jack Taylor has now opened up to 4 seconds almost, and Ryan Davies definitely leading a good race of his own, but at the same time as well, I can imagine the teamwork aspect between himself and Taylor is now really coming into play, as it means that Jack Taylor has been given a race where he can just focus on trying to manage the gap and chase down Alex Millward in return, and our leaders are starting to close up to one another. It should be pointed out as they make their way on through turn number 10. Here is your race leader from Effect Simulations of Alex Millward, and he is 2 seconds clear of Jack Taylor. The gap has come down over the last few laps, and to put that in perspective in terms of how much the lap time has come down, as we do show you that on screen now, and here it is at the bottom right hand corner of your screen, you'll notice that on what was lap number 17, the gap was up to a maximum of what was 2.6 seconds, and since they've gone onto this lap, it has come back down to 2 seconds now, going on to lap number 22, and therefore it does look as though Taylor has started to open up the pace. Millward, meanwhile, after really pushing away at the start of the race, will now start to feel the pinch of putting in that investment early on and perhaps not saving a bit more life in the car. And as they make the way out of turn number 4 and onwards towards turn number 5 they go. Meanwhile, we do look back to Tom Weston, still chasing after prime leader of Marvin Cruz at ECW Racing, dragging very close there, under braking in towards Atwood Corner. Through the right hander he goes, and as he does so, more pit stops playing out. We've got Alex Hill into the pits, also Neil Jack into the pits, and I believe that's the only 2 pit stops currently under commencement. And well, as Weston there taking a peek to the inside, really trying to get into Cruz's head at this point. Am I going for it? Am I not? Well, you're going to have to wait and see. And well, that's one way to definitely muddle up your rivals' mind when it comes to the racing. But the DCW Racing driver there not going for the attacking in, just waiting. But meanwhile, as they make their way onwards towards the rest of the lap, going on to a next lap, it's John Doe there backed off, and Lexington Sim and Andre Livingston and John Eddowes on through. And I believe Doe was serving what was a slowdown penalty there for track limit infringements in turns 10 and 11. And well, the Canadian driver here having a challenging day so far, but having made no pit stops as well, being down in P31, he'll know that he's really up against it now if he wants to make progress later on in the race. Neil Jack, meanwhile, has taken his 1 pit stop for the day and has come out in P34 as he leaves the pit lane there in the priority Porsche 992. As he powers his way on behind where's the top 4, he now is effectively a lapped car until our leaders come into the pits for their what is expected single pit stops for today. Making our way into the second half of this race now. After what has been the best part of 33 minutes of racing, your race leader is still Alex Millward in the elite class here as he makes his way out of turn number 4, leading this race over with P2 elite driver and overall Jack Taylor by 1.7 seconds, but the gap between these two is diminishing gradually and Taylor is on the charge. Me on the rear of the picture, you'll notice there in the battle for P3, that's your pro leader of Ryan Davies, Marte, and we've got to head of Haroldas Jotautas on the opening 4 corners, and that's where you stay with Jotautas right behind him in P4, and then Marvin Cruz a further what is 9 seconds behind. Right now your prime leader holding on here for P5, and well, he makes his way on through turn at number 5. Tom Weston P6, the DCW Racing driver, P2 in the pro class, looking to put the pressure on as meanwhile James Armstrong, having started from what was P35 on the grid, has charged his way through to P7 for Grabber Esports and is continuing to cut into the leaders here. Well, could he win this race with P35? I think that may be a bit of a bridge too far. He is 16.5 seconds off race leader Alex Millward, but still he'll be looking to try and hunt down that elite podium if he can. He's P7 ahead of Casper on a P8, the third place pro driver who we see here for Old Dudes in Cars Black. And then we do have the second and third place drivers in the prime class wrapping up your top 10 in the form of Alan Lever, who is the second place prime driver for UKSimRacing Stuart P9, and then only 1.8 seconds behind him is Chris Round, who we see here for Leroy Jenkins, P10 overall. Philippe Ramadan is P11 at best the rest, and then your AM leader is still James Corney, P17 overall, but leader of the AM class UKSimRacing Mansell, and he is 2 places ahead of Matt Edmondson, who now sits 4 seconds behind second place AM class and UKSimRacing Stuart driver, giving it everything indeed to try and make up for Road Atlanta. But as they make the way on through, and we switch back to the class stands on the left hand side of your screen for a little bit of a period. More pit stops still to come from drivers, but the majority of our drivers so far still opting to stay out there. Out of our 34 runners, we have had so far 8 pit stops done. My drivers, we believe all of them are strategic, but it does, I mean, if you do the mathematics, there's 26 drivers yet to take the pit stops, and if they are going for no stops around here, we'll have to wait to see whether they can make the fuel tank go all the way to the end. But we do reckon there is a very quick splash and dash of fuel to go into the car, no greater than approximately what is 13 to 15 seconds, depending on the fuel saving being done. And we'll Resaunders only 10.5 seconds in the pits, it should be pointed out, the fastest pit stop of everybody, and therefore saving more and more fuel. And we do know that Resaunders is a bit of a fuel whisperer when it comes to saving fuel. You only need to look back to what was, I do believe, Season 8 of the UKSimRacing GT3 League, we pulled off that miraculous strategy on fuel. I need to go short of fuel by a single lap in the end, but as Matt Hisley finds his way past Lawrence Marsh over for P30, as they make the way on through at the, not the Center S, at the Moss S, and up towards turn number 4 they go. All right, now the Slushy Motorsports driver having to do things the hard way and been in the battle for some time with the likes of Darren Sharples, and he's going to do it on track here later on if he can't do it on strategy. Indeed, he's invested in strategy now, but the Turkish driver's got a long way to go to see whether that strategy is going to pay off. He makes his way down in towards turn at number 5 from him. We do look to one of the other closest battles on the circuit. This is Kev Eilert, the pro driver, P24 overall, P10 in class for TART, ahead of Chris Bates, who sits behind him in the with P7 Pro and machine. And once these two drivers have made the way on through the winding turn 8-9 complex, right now the Britain's still pushed on. Both drivers yet to take their pit stop for today, presuming that everyone will have to make that single stop, and we're not expecting anyone to pull any surprises, and we'll Bates pulling into the pits there. As soon as we say Lever has taken their pit stop, it's almost as if he's heard us and decides to make his way on in, and well, we'll drop down the order, but he'll feel as though this is the right call to buy himself some more time out of track, and particularly a clear track where he can put in some better lap times rather than being the dirty air of another driver. But meanwhile, speaking of the drivers in the dirty air of one another, this is Tom Weston, who finds himself right now sandwiched in between a rock and a hard place. In front of him is the prime leader, Marvin Cruz. Behind him is the elite championship leader and driver trying to rip his way through the field of James Armstrong. And well, these three bits separated by only half a second nose to tail. As they come down in towards turn at number 11, and Weston's lines now being a little bit more defensive potentially than he would like. And I think what he's trying to do is say to Armstrong here, look, go for strategy instead, don't pass me, so I want to hunt down Cruz. But I think right now Armstrong will have other ideas. He just turns a little bit early as we see Bates leaving the pit lane in the rear of the picture, and he's come out in some relatively clear traffic a lap down, but that's going to be good traffic in the fact that he won't have too much of a gap in front of him. In fact, he'll have plenty of a gap in front of him in which he can work around and be putting some clear air laps. And behind him, he does have the presence of Casper Brotner, about 1.5 seconds behind. But I suspect Brotner will soon be looking to come into the pits. So Bates, therefore, will be just happy to have come out in the right place at the right time for the second half of the race. As they make their way down the back straight, focusing on the here and now, James Armstrong getting a brilliant run out of Atwood. And as he heads down towards hairpin, it's going to be on the inside here. West on the outside, onto the brakes, Armstrong goes. In fact, he's given the opportunity to take the position before the braking zone, and therefore rejoins the racing line. And then Weston deciding it's better to lose a little bit of time, letting the faster driver through rather than simply battling. But meanwhile, in a dramatic turn, ladies and gentlemen, Alex Millwood has fallen out to lead this race and leading in the lead class. Jack Taylor is now your class leader, and what exactly has happened to cause this? We immediately get a replay to explain the story. This was coming out of turn number 7 in front. That's Rob Armstrong, and Millwood flashing his lights there to Armstrong to say he's coming on through. And as they do, Armstrong losing the rear of the car, and Millwood having to slam the brakes on, and William Taylor having the opportunity to go round the outside, seizing the opportunity, and Alex Millwood stopping just in the nick of time for safety. But that safety has cost him dear, but I don't think it's cost him in terms of later in the race. But this was the perspective of Jack Taylor for TU Sport Tar, who I don't believe is going to believe his luck on reflection. And you'll see there's Armstrong starting to lose it. Millwood on the inside, slams the brakes on, and Taylor just swings the car to the outside, thinking, right, I'm not going to stop in time, I've got to go round and avoid the incident, and does exactly that. And with the TU Sport Tar drives cat-like reflexes, not just saving him from an incident, but also helping him take the lead this race as we return it to your live racing pictures. But as we do, Taylor now leads by what is 2.7 seconds, and as they break the way down in towards the hairpin, well, I can see there Iron Ace in the Twitch chat saying that Alex is in. Alex Bill would be throwing his wheel out the window. Indeed, I can imagine the frustration for Alex Bill. In fact, he did everything right to avoid an incident, but in return, doing the right thing has cost him the lead of this race, and it could potentially cost him the win, given the pace we've seen at the back and forth between Taylor and Millwood. And it does seem as though Taylor continues to be in this ascendancy. But again, let's not write it off. It's not over until the checkered flag waves, and somebody takes the checkered flag, of course. And we've got a long way to go in the remaining 20 minutes of race. There's more pit stops to play out. Neil Smith and Christopher Bates both in. That Bates is in for a second time. Did they get something wrong on the first pit stop strategy? I believe there might have been a speeding in the pit lane. He's been speeding in the pit lane. The simple reason he's had an extended stationary time of the best part of 44 seconds. That would be indicative of a stop and go penalty. And it was a driver that made the way on through. Jotautas still chased after. Whereas Davies in 4 attempts is the closest he's got so far, and still trying to wind down that gap. But meanwhile, just behind Neil Smith has leapt his way out of the pits of John Davies, who's had a slight pit stop compared to Smith, and Smith now up in the P4 in the AM class and strategy for UKSimRacing Mansell and the wrong stuff driver. He continues to be confounded from taking podiums in that McLaren MP4 12C, despite the fact he's had the pace all season to be right up there, and it's not gone right for Davies. Davies is going to have to do it on circuit if he wants to finish in what will be P4 as a minimum. As we see a car parked up on the inside. I think that's Bates who's had to retire the car, and I think in the end it might be to bring the car in to have a look at an issue. They've sent it back out, and then he's been towed to the pits. I think that could be Bates' race over as a result, which is so unfortunate, and indeed not to be his day today in the privateer machine. Meanwhile, Smith and John Davies are still separated by a second as they come through Revolver Corner. From them, we do look to what is the long line of cars that started to build here. Kev Eilert yet to take a pit stop, P22. Behind him is Simon Andre Livingston, who has pitted, P6 Pro-Am. Jack Barker, P3 Am driver, yet to pit. We've also got John Eddowes, who has pitted, P11 Pro driver. Looking up the inside there versus Barker in a 1. And in the end, there's contact between the two. And Eddowes, I think, coming from quite far back, and Barker not expecting to move. But the BMW is turned, and the Ford GT just stays on as if no contact was made. And the TT6 Jotautas driver will be frustrated at that one as he brings the car back together. Being the number 70 right now, pushing on as he makes his way up towards what will be turn number 4, and will keep his head down and knowing it just wasn't to be that move. And we've got Steinar Sunny for company, only 1.2 seconds behind. But meanwhile, looking back here to Eilert versus Simon Andre Livingston. Livingston on the right of your pitch. I think Eilert back it off here and letting the prime drivers already taking his pit stop go. And as they head down in towards the breaks over the hairpin, Barker just behind, knowing that right now he's got strategy against him. He still wants to take the pit stop, as has Edmondson and Connolly, your AM leaders. And well, we'll have to wait and see where Barker fits in amongst Smith, Davies, also Jack and Doble. There's a bit more of a story to go there, no doubt about it. As the drivers make the way out towards what will be turn number 8 here. We see the comment in the Twitch chat from GZN High and saying, I told John Eddowes that car damage is coming out to his paycheck, and in absolutely ruthless and TT6 when it comes to damaging the cars, as they don't always have the funds to pay for the damage the drivers cause to the cars, and well, that's part of their contracts. But meanwhile, as we do see Eilert coming in to the pits, deciding he's done enough, it's time to bring it in. Meanwhile, Barker and Hisley now make the way on through, and well, the privateer here is going to have the Slushy Motorsports Lamborghini firmly in his rearview mirror, and what I suspect Barker may just let this go if Hisley's close enough to look for the move into 1. Hisley's going to go for it, and as he does so, it's going to be a late lunge, and in an absolute echo of what was the previous lap versus Eddowes, the Ford GT stays on, but meanwhile, Hisley turned around into the gravel trap, and well, there again, I think the question is, did he really need to look for it there and then under braking? And well, some will say yes, others will say no. Feel free to give us your thoughts in the YouTube and Twitch chats. But I think there Barker just keeping his head down, respecting the fact that whilst they are racing at the same time as well, it's not the place to make the move happen. And Hisley feeling the opposite. But as we say hello to Simon Hardy in the YouTube chat who's cheering on Tiki Sidsport, right now it's definitely going the Tiki way in the pro class as the Tiki Sidsport car Marte driver of Ryan Davies continues to push on out there. Tom Weston P2, P7 overall, meanwhile, is still trying to stay in the hunt, albeit the pace right now is Ryan Davies to bear, and his pace on average is half a tenth faster a lap. And as they make the way on down towards what is turn number 5, more pit stops coming on through. Brotner, Griffiths and Rice all into the pits, Eddowes as well into the pits, so the damage picked up on the car, and as they all serve their pit stops from them. Meanwhile, Alex Hill making his way on through, having taken his pit stop of the day. He's caught up behind Matt Edmondson, who's yet to pit, as we do see quite a bit of dust on the circuit at turns 1 and 2, and well, that's not going to be helping the grip levels whatsoever. But as Hill makes his way on through, what about Nicholas Rice, who's just left the pit lane? Well, Rice, in fact, has come out in a very interesting position. He's come out in P9 in the pro class, P21 overall. But the reason why this is an interesting position he's in the fact that he's got 4.5 seconds to Reece Saunders in front of him, and he has got the best part of what is 10 seconds to Simon Andre Livingston behind him. So Rice right now is in a very lonely state out on circuit, but this could be exactly what he needs in order to be able to put some pace down. But meanwhile, putting down the pace markers, it's going to be your leaders here. Changing hands as Ryan Davies goes on to lead a lap in the pro class overall, head of Haroldas Jotautas and Jack Taylor and Alex Mulder both into the pits here, as there's also Jack Barker, and as Barker leaves the pit lane, in fact, now we'll get to see which of these two drivers has done more fuel saving out of the turn, and can Millward find his way back into this race via fuel saving? That's the question as they both serve their pit time. Well, Taylor leads first. Meanwhile, Millward starts to leave as the car comes down off the Jags, and the gap in the end stays firmly in the hands of Jack Taylor, and that gap has opened up to, I believe, what is about 2.3 seconds as Millward makes his way through turn number 1, just ahead of Darren Sharples, so he's avoided a little bit of a speed bump in the road there, the former Sharples, who's yet to take a pit stop. Meanwhile, Marvin Cruz is leaving the pit lane, and he's going to come out as your leading Pro-Am driver who has taken a pit stop so far. And Leather is the Pro-Am class leader now. Rob Selby's P2 just up the road for Cruz, but they have yet to pit. So Marvin Cruz right now is firmly on course to take what will be the Pro-Am win. I do believe with this will be the first Pro-Am win for him this season, unless I'm mistaken. Indeed, yes, it would be. He's finished on the podium in what was round number 3 at Suzuka, but he's yet to take a win, and it's going to happen this time, all being well, by the commentator's curse or misfortune striking him, of course. But meanwhile, as James Connie and Matt Edmondson made the way out the pit lane, they return 1-2 in the AM class here. Connie retaking the lead just ahead of Lawrence Barge, who goes a bit deeper into turn 1 to try and look around the outside to the inside of 2. But Connie then covers that off, and therefore James Connie right now maintains the status quo, and he'll be feeling very confident that all is starting to come his way as they make the way on through and up towards Atwood Corner. But as they do, and roaring on here, we do say hello to Simon Bamber in the Twitch chat. We're saying I'm going on holiday for a week, given the fact he's expecting a few stewarding decisions to need to be made after the racing, and more like stewarding decisions after Road Atlanta, what I believe was the best part of about 14 of them, from quoting at numbers backwards. But meanwhile, focusing what's here on track and not what can happen after the racing today. Ryan Davies and Haroldas Jotautas still knows the towers, a bit of grass being kicked up there from Jotautas taking a very tight run out to turn number 4. As they power their way down the back straight, these two have been inseparable lap after lap. And Davies right now still trying to hold on, but I would imagine here that Jotautas will be doing some fuel saving, tucked in behind Davies, and therefore will be trying to keep this gap as close as possible to force Davies to use more fuel in trying to break away. But also on top of that, by being this close when they come into the pit, he'll guarantee himself as much as possible the opportunity to get the undercut in terms of relative pit time. As they make the way out of turn, so you can see so close to quarter X here. And in fact, we jump on board here on with the dashboard, the absolute most ace of drivers. Davies goes a bit deep, and there's going to be an opportunity here to try and go around the outside, but Davies still there as they go through the right hand of turn number 9. Jotautas tries to cut it back, but as he does so, Davies peels off into the pit lane entry, and Jotautas follows him but opens up the corner. Davies goes a little bit deep, does that count as running off pit entry line? However, we'll have to wait and see. But they come absolutely battling their way into the pit lane, both battling up to the limiter, and will Davies holds on, but was he within the track limits of the pit lane? We believe he may have been, but as they make the way on down, right now this will come down to who's going to have the faster pit stop here, as Jotautas has just not been able to thwart with Davies' resilience in front of him. Meanwhile, made his way down through. One is the final quarter. Jack Taylor comes on through to retake, we believe, what will be the lead of this race, with Alex Millward sitting a firm 3.6 seconds behind him. And as they do, well, meanwhile in the pit lane, Davies and Jotautas literally knows the towers. They make the way on through, and in the end, Jotautas has to back off on pit lane exit, and Davies does hold the position. And my goodness, the TD6 Carl Marte driver is not giving in. He wants a P3 overall today, and I believe it will be the first overall podium we've seen from a driver who is not in the elite class all season, and they're very rare to come by, it must be said. But Ryan Davies right now absolutely digging in, but Jotautas right now not backing off here. He wants his position just as much as they make the way up through turn number 4 for what is the 33rd time of asking. And indeed, we're 11 minutes plus the final lap to go, and Alex Millward only 1.3 seconds up the road. Well, Millward right now is at risk of being dragged back into this battle, as Shuey points out, as they come on down. But here comes Jotautas to look out on the inside. Davies being able to just hold his race at 9.9. They're in equal machines, they've got equal brakes, and therefore it's going to come down about how daring Jotautas wants to be when he goes into those braking zones. And the answer so far is not daring enough, it would say, as they make their way through 6 and 7, but from them. Meanwhile, Tom Weston trying to do the same versus Marvin Cruz, a P7 overall, as the P2 Pro driver looks to try and pick his way past the Prime leader, but Cruz digging in. In fact, it's the Prime leader effective, we believe. In fact, Rob Selby is still track position leader in the Prime class, but he's yet to pit from P5. Now, is Rob Selby trying to go all the way to the end on a no-stop strategy? In the fact that we have seen everybody coming to the pit so far, Selby is the only driver who is yet to pit. And as he makes his way on through, there's your answer. He can't do a no-stop, so he's got to come into the pit lane. And Selby in at the end, the last to fall in terms of strategy. But I think he'll be feeling as though this is going to be good enough to guarantee he's got a spot on that Prime podium. But which spot will it be? As meanwhile, Jotautas up the inside of Davies into turn 1. As they come through, I think it's going to be the move that seals the deal. And Jotautas does take P3 in the end off of Ryan Davies. And was a classic move into turn 1 as they make the way out of turn 2. There's a slight run wide there for Jotautas, and does it cost him the run in towards Atwood Curve? We'll have to wait to see as they get ready to battle onto the brakes. I don't think so. I think Jotautas has got it done in the end. But the big question is, how exactly did he set up the move? Well, here's the replay, ladies and gentlemen, and we get to see it in its full splendour. So they're making their way down towards the braking zone for turn number 1. Jotautas leaving it late in the day, but Davies in the end not react as much on turn. I think was expecting a potential move to come, and was they made the way into turn at number 2. That was the end of the battle, but Jotautas running quite wide out of 2. I think they're trying to maximise his corner exit speed in order to just break away and not give Davies any opportunity to come back. But I think in the end, Jotautas being more confident in the car and the condition of the tyres, I think Davies giving it everything and just having nothing left after that pit stop, and therefore letting it go come at the end of that battle. As we return to your live racing picture, still more battles to plan. Matt Hesley still trying to carve his way up the order here as he now looks to hunt down Stein Alsani for P24 on the inside there. And well, we've seen him take the inside run into turn 4 a number of times, and it's never quite worked out the way he's wanted it to. And well, as a result, trying to get Sunny to make an error under braking. Sunny doing no such thing with BMW's power being demonstrated as he is being reeled in very gradually. But notice here how Hesley having to literally give it everything, and even trying to feint his way under braking into turn 5. Certainly knowing nothing's coming from that far back. Indeed, if he sends it from that far back, he's going to need at least a couple of first-class stamps, and also it might be a trip to the stewards room if there's contact between them. But they make the way for turn at number 7. Stanley right now just holding position, expected Hesley to work a bit more for it, as they head in towards the braking zone here for turn at number 8 into the pits as well. Jack Barker and John Eddowes, what is their final pit stops of the day, albeit I believe Eddowes has been sat in the pit lane for some time, so I believe that is a car looking at retirement as they've got an issue with the TE6 Sport car and they can't quite fix it. Meanwhile, Jack Barker is being serviced currently, but I believe his race as well is going to take a turn where he'll be finishing P32 overall, given the fact he's been stationary there now for the best part of 30 seconds. We'll have to wait to see what happens as I try to push on. And down towards turn number 1 here on your live pictures. Meanwhile, Sunny's still holding position versus Hesley as we look back for the rear of the race lab eastwards BMW M4. And while the Norwegian driver hasn't really had too much batting in amongst his prime peers today, but he's definitely had plenty of batting in amongst what is pro drivers and drives around him. And while Hesley once again the better exit out of turn number 2, but knowing there's no grip on the inside into 4, will he try it once again? No, he decides not to, but he's trying to go for the run here out of the corner, trying to get Sunny to go a bit deep. Sunny does so, in fact, it's a weaker run off the corner this time, and Sunny taking a tighter exit line. That just deprives Hesley of a little bit of toe. It is interesting here. It looks like a mistake at first, but I think Sunny is intentionally changing his line through that corner just to take a bit of the run away from Hesley, who needs the toe to overcome the straight line speed of what is the BMW M4. Well, Lamborghini has got some grunt in the lower gears, but it's not enough in the higher gear range. And as they make their way out of turn at number 6 into 7, you can see they stay exactly as they are. From then we look to Casper Brotno, still battling with what is here Alan Lever for P9, and once they make the way right to left here throughout the opening couple of corners, we look back to the class and standings for a brief moment on the left hand side of your screen to show you well the top 7 in our respective classes do stand, and in particular with Brotner right now P4 in the pro class. He is the best part of 2 seconds off of Alex Hill up the road. I think Brotner Hill will be happy with the P4 given how the race has played out today. No, it's going to be a solid finish inside the top 10 overall. With points only scored for what is class finishing position, and even say the fastest lap in class and also the pole position in class, but still to take a top 10 overall is no mean feat in the UKSimRacing GT3 League, and Brotner will look to take that in his stride as he makes his way on around. We can confirm the pit stop that Jack Barker has finished. Oh, good spin. There's a bit of contact there between what is Alan Lever and Brotner, and well, Cas Brotner now a bit of a slow run out of turn at number 5. We're not quite sure the full story behind that slow run, but what we can tell you is the two having a bit of rub, and I think Barker in fact involved in an instant earlier on before his pit stop, and that explaining why he's had an extended pit time, so some repair work on the car, and we'll use this fast repair up after the first spin, and therefore Barker having to have the long haul in the pit lane. That puts him all the way down to P7 in the M class, and I suspect that'll be where he finishes today as a result, unless there's any late retirements. But meanwhile, there's been a bit of an error for Rob Selby, who's dropped down to P5 in the prime class after his pit stop, and well, he's gone down the order quite significantly as Rob Selby. What exactly happened after his pit stop, and here's replay to explain. Making his way down into turn at number 5, goes a bit deep into the corner, but no signs of speed. It must be into turn 6 then, and indeed going into left-hander, you'll notice the rear left tyre just simply going onto the grass slightly and sending the car around. But the UKSimRacing Stuart driver getting it back together, and in fact following his pit stop, falling out into what was P5 in the prime class before that spin. So therefore Zelby's strategy has not worked out here today at all, going long, and in fact it's come back to haunt him and taken him away from a potential podium in this prime class, as your final podium finisher right now in the prime class, should they finish where they currently stand, would be Jeff Griffiths. Milford's racing driver would be bringing on home what would be his first ever podium in the Prime class this season, as right now he tries to hold on to P12 in what's the overall category all the way to in this race. He's got Reece Saunders for company right behind it as they make the way down through turn at number 6 in towards 7 with only 4 minutes left on the clock plus the final lap of racing. From our drivers here, we do have a grind battle for P2 overall and in the elite class, and this is Alex Mills for Effect Simulations ahead of Haroldas Jotautas as they head in towards turns 1 and 2, and the pace is going the way of Jotautas little by little, a 10th on average a lap being taken by Jotautas. He'll need to take a bit more if he wants to be in this fight. The gap right now is 8 tenths, so arguably at this pace he might be there looking for a move on the very last lap, albeit he'd need to make a lunge to make it happen. So if we need to try and take at least 2 attempts out on this lap and the next one, and that way when we go on to the final lap of racing, doing some mental maths, I believe it's this lap plus 2 more to go, well then Jotautas might be within reach of trying to make a move happen, but Mills not going to give in after the dismal disappointment of losing the lead of the race in circumstances completely outside of his control. Well, the 53 driver right now will not want to lose second place from circumstances which are entirely within his control as they make the way on through Revolver Corner, as they make the way down to the left hand and in towards turn at number 7. Jotautas still in the chase and doing everything in his power to bring that gap down. It's in this second half of the lap where I think Jotautas has the pace advantage. He's just taken 1.5 tenths out of Millwood just through turns 6 and 7 alone, and will that gap then being equalised in terms of the gains and losses. And in fact, they made the way up through turns 8 and 9. Gaining initially through turn 8, but poor turn 9 from Jotautas, and the gap has extended back up to 9 tenths. I think that dirty air also having something to do with the story as they make the way through last corner and onto the penultimate lap of racing here at Okayama, as our race leader sitting 4 seconds up the road. He's in the foreground for a brief moment, and our cameraman takes a pan round to him. It's the What Tyres Jack Taylor who goes on to lap 39 with 40th lap in the wings in due course as they make the way on through. But as they do so, we see a glass being raised there by Teague Races, and indeed in the Twitch chat enjoying the racing. Great to have you with us, Teague, as they make the way up towards turn number 4 once again. And well, from our top 3, we do look a bit further down the order to Neil Jack, who right now in his own little scrap for P4 in the AM class versus John Davis as they make the way down the back straight. And as they do head down towards the braking zone, Davis defending on the inside, Jack in the tow here, knowing that the Porsche's not got the straight line speed, but he needs every little bit of draft that he can in order to stay close. And right now it's going to be the car that needs to be driven on edge compared to the car that does seem to be the master of Okayama. And will can Neil Jack bring out that mastery and bring home one more place in class before all is said and done, and be the best of the rest of the AM class off of the podium. Well, as they head in towards turn number 8, running out of time to get this done, but eager to try and make that move happen when he can. And as we look to what is Reece Saunders, in fact, oh goodness me, and Saunders just parked up there, and well, that was, I believe, I'm not quite sure where that was in reality, but I get the feeling that might have been on the exit of turn 7 up towards 8, and I think for Reece Saunders it might have been a lack of fuel in the car that's led to him being in that situation. But meanwhile, as our race leader goes on to the final lap of racing, well, here comes Jack Taylor and it's gone to lap 40 of what we 40 delivered today. And well, coming on down, Millwood and Jotautas separated by a whole second still as we show you those overall standings all the way to the finish now. And well, as they do, meanwhile, we look to John Davis versus Neil Jack. They're just in front of the race leader, the closest battle in class on circuit right now. And we're going to stay with them, ladies and gentlemen, on what is for them their penultimate lap. They're going to run one more lap after this, unless Taylor laps them on this lap. But I would imagine that Taylor will perhaps sit behind them, given how much time is remaining. And we do have confirmation that Reece Saunders is the car that did run out of fuel right towards the end, and therefore for Reece Saunders, the first of Okayama has come back to haunt him compared to what happened a few seasons ago. But as we do see Davis fending off what is Jack in towards turn number 5. Again, similar situation. Jack gets the better rotation through the corner, but he hasn't got the exit speed that he would like to. But it is 2.5 tenths here. Nothing more, nothing less as they come through turn number 7. And well, Jack's close, but he can't find the place to go for the move here. And the only place he can go for a move now on this lap would be coming through the last couple of corners onto the start finish straight. Meanwhile, as they wind their way on through, behind them sits the driver right now, who will be thinking as though Lady Luck has been on his side today, but he's also had to put in the hard effort. In qualifying, he put himself on what was the front row to battle with Alex Millwood, but Millwood had a brilliant run in the early stage of the race, and as he closed the gap, an instant cost Millwood the lead, which Taylor would take gladly, and as he makes his way out the final corner, the checker flag waves, and it's Jack Taylor from TC who wins round number 6 overall in the elite class of season 12 of the UKSimRacing GT3 League, ahead of Alex Miller P2, Haroldas Jotautas P3, and Ryan Davies comes through to make it another win in the pro class, P4 overall for TC Marte, with 30 places gained behind to P5 finisher James Armstrong for Brabham Esports. Marvin Cruz comes out the final quarter to take his first prime win of the season and his first overall top 10 for Old Duty Cars Blue in a brilliant drive for the German driver, ahead of Tom Weston, runner-up in the pro class. Alex Hill rounds the pro podium P8, ahead of Anne Lever, runner-up in the prime class. Casper on a completion top 10 in what is P4 in the pro class. Khalid Ramadan just behind him, and it'll be Jeff Griffiths, who is your last podium finisher in the prime class there, P12, with Chris Round just behind. Nicholas Rice and Rob Zelby will complete what is your top 15. But as our drivers make their way across that timeline, we've still got one more winner to come. And there he is, ladies and gentlemen. It's another win, and this time it's an expected one. It's James Connolly who makes it back-to-back wins in the AM class, and a championship that is continuing to go its way for UKSimRacing Mansell, P19 overall. Runner-up in the AM class today, P22, is UKSimRacing Stewart's Matt Edmondson, and Neil Smith as he winds his way out the last couple of corners trying to fend off Rob Armstrong to the line. Well, right now, he's not going to be worried too much about the pressure on the Mercedes driver, because what he's had pressure on him all season is to return to the podium, and he does it, ladies and gentlemen. He takes P3 in the AM class after a glut of bad luck, and the 304 driver makes it happen. And in the drag race to the finish line just behind, it's P4 AM class for John Davis, P27 for the wrong staff overall, head of Neil Jack, who rounds off the AM top 5 in that brilliant battle between them. And they are your last lap, the last finishers, we should say, on the lead lap. What is then a lap down finishers. In fact, we do have one more finisher on what is the lead lap. He's making his way into the pit lane. Kev Eilert for TART, who comes on down and through here. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that's all your finishers of the race. And what a race it has been. And for Jack Taylor, as he makes his way on down, you can see Ryan Davies behind him. The Tiki Sim Sport drivers happy with wins in their respective classes. It may not have been a Tiki 1-2 today. It may not have been a double overall podium for Tiki Sim Sport. But what it has been today is an absolutely brilliant drive from them, and indeed a proud day. They always go well in Japan Tiki Sim Sport, and it's been another solid demonstration of that as they park up at the start finish straight to do donuts there. But as they do so, almost in contact with one another, and I think Taylor a little bit nervous right now, starting to get the throttle built up. Well, it's their moment to celebrate, as it also is for James Connolly, as these two do the donuts at the start finish straight. And from then, James Connolly right now, flanked by Matt Edmondson. The UKSimRacing Mansell driver will know there's still 2 more rounds to go, and this championship will go to the end, given the fact the final round is undroppable. But right now, he's proven to be absolutely infallible in the AM Class Championship lead, and well, it's definitely a lead that he doesn't want to relinquish. As he makes his way into the pit lane. A difficult day for Simon Andre Livingston, albeit a brilliant battle between him and Lawrence Marsh that lasted the best part was the entire opening stint, 40 minutes of battling between them. Then in the Racing Lab Esports driver coming on home P6 in the Prime class, and his teammate Steinar Sani just behind him there, P8 in the class, in what has been a day today when they've been fighting for top 10 points in their class, but they haven't been quite there for the top 5, and therefore it's going to be a day to look forward from going into next week's round, our endurance race at Bathurst. But as all our drivers make their way into the pit lane, and let's take a look to the scenic view, and indeed, let's take a look at those race results subject to any stewards' inquiries, and here they are. So after 60 minutes of racing, our sprint race round for round number 6 of the UKSimRacing GT3 League Season 12 at the recently refurbished and revamped Okayama International Circuit in Japan, Jack Taylor taking your overall win there for Tiki Sim Sport Tower by 3.4 seconds over Effect Simulations' Alex Millward, and Haroldas Jotautas wrapping up the podium there for Absolute Motorsport Ace-Liv. As much as he tried to finish on the overall podium, your pro winner Ryan Davies took P4 in the end for Tiki Sim Sport Car Marte, doing a fantastic job of keeping Jotautas at bay for the first half of the race. He did the first 45 minutes of the race, but in the end just not having the tyre life in order to hold on any longer and having to let it go, but still finishing P4 ahead of James Armstrong, and credits where it's due to the Brabham Esports driver fighting his way all the way through for a P35 start to take P5 in the end, and that P4 in class will definitely go in good stead. Marvin Cruz, your Prime winner, his highest ever finished overall, P6 for Old Dudes in Cars Blue, and his first ever Prime win as well. He'll be absolutely jubilant at that, as will be Tom Weston for DCW Racing, who in the end drove an absolutely solid race to take the run-up spot in the Pro class, and we're P7 overall ahead of third place Pro finisher Alex Hill, P8 there for Tiki Sim Sport Kimi. And Lever and Casper Brotner completed your top 10 for UKSimRacing Stuart and Old Dudes in Cars Black, with Lever in particular second place in the Pro-Am class, and knowing today his run of second place finishes continues, and he'll be looking for that win next time out at Bathurst. And Casper Brotner may not have been on the Pro podium, but still have done well to hold off that P4 position from Khalid Ramadan, best the rest of Somsport there, P11. Jeff Griffiths P12 ahead of Chris Round, with Nicholas Rice P14 and Rob Selby P15 completing overall top 15. But a special mention to Jeff Griffiths, his first Pro-Am podium of the season for Built Visible Racing, with that P12 overall finish, and having to do it the hard way by fending off Chris Round on strategy. But from the top 15, we now come on to your podium finishes in the AM class, and as we look further on down the order, James Connolly, your AM winner today, P19 overall for UKSimRacing Mansell, and in the end, taking out that class win ahead of Matt Edmondson, who was the runner-up, P22 overall for UKSimRacing Stuart, and then rounding off at the podium, an all UKSimRacing podium in the AM class was UKSimRacing Mansell's Neil Smith, P25. We also had a number of drivers finish a lap down. Our last lead lap finisher was, as confirmed, in fact, Neil Jack, P28 there, the privateer who battled with John Davies all the way out to line for P27 overall and was P4 in the AM class. But then finishing a lap down, the first of many drivers, Kev Eilert there for TART. We also had John Doblefish a lap down. 2 laps down for both Reece Saunders and Jack Barker, in a difficult day for the pair of them. And then we did have the retirees of John Eddowes, Chris Bates, Ollie Pimley, and the 2 drivers who didn't make it to the grid, Connor Craven and Jonathan Tighe. 37 starters then, and what was the best part of 32 finishers, of which 28 were on the lead lap. And as we then come to the individual class finisher positions, and this is where all the points are scored. In the elite class, firstly, Jack Taylor, your winner for Tiki Simsport Toa by 3.4 seconds over Effect Simulations' Alex Millward. And you've got to feel for Millward today. It looked as though we were building up to a huge battle between the two of them, and Millward be looking to control that lead all the way to the end. But an unfortunate incident in front of him, which involved Rob Armstrong going around at turn number 8, and Millward doing everything right to avoid being engulfed in that instant by slamming on the brakes, whereas Jack Taylor went around the instant in the end, and enough space to do so, and that is the way the luck fell. But still, holding on to P2, Haroldas Jotautas coming strong in the last stint of the race, with the absolute motorsport ASF driver not having enough time to close down the hunt for P2, and then to round off the podium, with James Armstrong a further 6 seconds behind, and Reece Saunders with that unfortunate retirement 2 laps in the end, but will be classified as a race finisher as he did complete over half the race distance for Altitude Esports. And then comes to the Pro class. And the second of our classes, Ryan Davies, the Tiki Simsport Car Marte, taking the win by 17 seconds over Tom West. And Davies in a world of his own today in qualifying, and the same in the race. But Weston as well, doing well to be the runner-up. And the DCW Racing driver, we pleased that he fended off Alex Hill to avoid a 1-2 for Tiki Simsport. Indeed, being forced to take a 1-3 instead, with Hill holding on to P3 for the Kimi outfit, ahead of Old Dudes in Cars Blacks, Casper Brotner, and Khalid Ramadan a further 4 seconds behind, completed the top 5. Nicholas Rice P6, and a bit of a difficult day today for the Destino Motorsports driver, involved in a lot of battling in the early stages and putting him out of the hunt for a top 5, but still finishing P6 ahead of Darren Sharples, with Casper Tunstead chasing after the Old Dudes and Cars Blue driver, but in the end the Peak Sim Racing driver not quite able to find a way through. Daniel Pays, P9 for Old Dudes and Cars Black, ahead of Met Hisley. And the Sochi Motorsports driver in the end having to take a P10 after battling hard and trying to be inventive with finding his overtaking zones, but this Okayama circuit definitely not rewarding his more aggressive approach to overtaking, and the Sochi Motorsports driver taking the final spot inside the top 10. Kev Eilert a lap down at P11 there for TART, best the rest, and we did have the retirees of John Eddowes, who finished P12 and will be classified as a 12th place finisher as he did complete over half the race distance for Tiki Simsport Toa, and Ollie Pimley, who will be classified as a non-finisher. It's a DNF for the Symphonite driver for retiring 5 laps in to the race. We then come on to the Prime class, and in the third of our classes, as we can see, Marvin Cruz taking the win there by 6 seconds, or just under, for Old Dudes and Cars Blue, with the chasing at presence of Anne Lever for UKSimRacing Stuart, and a further 8 seconds behind Built Visible Races. Jeff Griffiths completed the podium there, and congratulations to Cruz for his first win of the season in class, and to Jeff Griffiths for his first podium in the class. Cruz round and Rob Selby completing your top 5, with Rob Selby in the end not quite able to replicate the strategic masterclass, indeed the pace of Anne Lever today, but the UKSimRacing Stuart drivers getting some good points on the board for the team, ahead of Racelab Esports' Simon Andre Livingston, and then Lawrence Marsh, Steiner Sani, Rob Armstrong, and Chris Bates completing your top 10. And Bates there, despite retiring with 15 laps to go, will be classified as a finisher as he did complete over half the race distance, whereas Connor Craven for Olympus Esports not able to make it on the grid, and they'll therefore be classified as a non-starter. We lastly come to the AM class, but by no means least, and here we can see confirmation that by 6 seconds, James Connolly taking the win for UKSimRacing Mansell, head of sister team drive for UKSimRacing Stuart, Matt Edmondson, and Neil Swift completing at the all UKSimRacing podium there, P3, a further 24 seconds behind. John Davies, P4 for the wrong stuff, ahead of Neil Jack just by half a tenth at the finish line in their brilliant battle to the finish for the 4th place spot. And a letdown for John Doe for UKSimSport Kimi, but some good points taken on home. And a difficult day today for Jack Barker, the private in the Ford GT, 2 laps down at the end and not his to be. And we also did have the non-start of Jonathan Tighe for Team Tighe, who in the end the car not working on the gridding procedure and therefore not picking up any points at all. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our run through of the finishing positions of our drivers. All those results, of course, provisional, subject to any stewards' inquiries. And very shortly, we're going to be getting set for our post-round interviews with our drivers. But before we do so, we'd just like to take this moment to say that if you have enjoyed the broadcast today, and you're not currently subscribed to the UKSimRacing media channel that you've been watching from, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch, feel free to subscribe. It doesn't cost a penny, and it means you can stay up to date with all the latest broadcasts at UKSimRacing, including the Sunday GT3 League broadcast, and also the weekly broadcast on Thursdays for the Porsche Cup, as the seasons come towards their closing stages. And we have plenty more planned for broadcast over the course of 2024. But I'd also like to take this moment to say that if you've been enjoying the racing and perhaps you want to support us beyond just subscribing to the channels, did you know there is a quick way to do so via our affiliates? Because UKSimRacing is affiliated with multiple sim racing and real-world motorsport companies, which do include Swilly Omeda Sim Racing Coaching, Race Anywhere and Demon Tweaks. And if you do head to our website, that's uksimracing.co.uk today, and that website is going to appear on screen as of now, and there it is. You'll notice there's a link to our Discord in the top right corner of the screen. Now, if you do join our Discord via that link, it's going to be beneficial to you for 2 reasons. Because if you enjoyed the racing today and you want to be on the grid, you need to be a member of the UKSimRacing Discord. It's a mandatory requirement, so that way you can attend all the pre-race briefings, but also be aware of the latest updates to your chosen one-off event or series. But perhaps more relevant to today is the fact that a number of our affiliates provide discount codes which are only available on the UKSimRacing Discord, and if you use one of those codes as part of your purchase, it puts you in pole position to receive a discount, which is a win for you. But because we are a non-profit organisation, any kickbacks we get from affiliate purchases will be funded back into the UKSimRacing community in order to fund future series, including the future instalments of the UKSimRacing GT3 League, also the Porsche Cup, and we've got plenty more planned for 2024. So do remember, a little purchase can go a long way in supporting UKSimRacing. But right now, we're going to take a short breather, and we're going to be back at approximately 12 minutes time for our post-round interviews. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. You won't want to miss them. We'll see you very shortly. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, we are back for our post-round interviews. Apologies for being a couple of minutes behind what we anticipated, but we're just making sure to give our drivers plenty of time to get themselves available. And we're going to be hearing today from one of our AM drivers in the form of Matt Edmondson, who gets ready to join me very shortly for UKSimRacing Stewart. We're going to be hearing his story on his P2 finishing class today, before coming to two first-timers in the Pro-Am class. For joining me for an interview this season, and also for first times for them today, include your Pro-Am winner Marvin Cruz taking his first Pro-Am win of the season, and also his Pro-Am pole position with that, and Jeff Griffiths of Built Visible Racing, who fought his way through to a P3 finish in the Pro-Am class's first class podium. But without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure of joining me now, Matt Edmondson. Good evening to you, Matt. And I have to say, after the difficulties of Road Atlanta only a week ago, 2 laps from winning, today it looked as though you're right back in form and back in business for a P2 finishing class. How did it feel at Okayama?
After last week, I think it certainly helped to have a decent week this week. Shows that to me that I do have the pace to be competing here. But honestly, James just was a class above the rest of us this week. He was on form from minute one in that race, and he just had us all completely gapped. So I want to say well done to him right from the get-go.
Well, indeed, it's a fantastic job that's been done by James today, but by no means has it not been a fantastic job from yourself as well. And given the fact you started at P4 from the race day, qualifying looked as though it had its own challenges out there. How was qualifying for you?
Oh, it was a bit of a struggle, to be honest. Like the temperature here, and I don't know if it's just something with the track surface or with the Ferrari, but you don't feel like you've got a lot of grip most of the time. So it felt like you're just sort of floating. So trying to hook like the perfect lap together. I think there was still a few temps on the table, but I'd be like up in sector 1, and then at the end of the lap I'd lose it, or I'd be up in the last sector but I'd lost it in the first sector. So I'm happy with the time that I did, and then at the last minute the old nemesis of the Ford stuck it in front of me with his final lap, so I was expecting to have another battle with Jack throughout the race.
Oh, indeed, with Jack Barker squeezing in, what was that, P2 lap, a 29.5 in the end versus what was your own at 29.6. And we also had John Davies in the wrong stuff, McLaren at sneak his way just in front of you. I mean, given the fact the three of you were separated by a 10th in total, if that, it's been a theme of qualifying this season, the AM class, how close it is, but we always seem to have a pole sitter who's a couple attempts clear of the rest of the field. I mean, that must really cause you to raise your game every time we go into a qualifying session.
It does, yeah. I think this season there's been like every tracks there's been somebody that's had like a real sort of grip of it in the AM class. So when you're trying to keep up with those, it's a lot trickier. So like, for example, last week I don't know how many laps I'd done Road Atlanta like previously, so that track felt really bedded in, as did like Daytona to begin with. But like Suzuka, I didn't have really any pace at all. So it certainly gives a bit of a balance to that, especially somewhere around here where getting a good qualifying is really important because getting any overtakes done can be quite a challenge.
Oh, without a doubt. And coming from qualifying into the race, we saw in the early stages that exact point regarding overtaking being made. We looked as though after a bit of a 2x2 going through the opening 4 corners, you very quickly settled in and found yourself tucking in behind what was Daniel Pay's for Old Dudes in Cars at Black. And then I have to ask, did it immediately switch from what was going racing to going strategy, or were you still trying to look for a couple of places in the early stages?
I was still hoping to make a little bit more progress because I knew, because at the beginning there was a couple of cars between myself and Jack, and then there would be a couple of cars between Jack and James. So I thought I need to try and keep with these guys, getting a few more places, because if the train splits and you can't get past the guy in front of you, you don't really have a chance to keep up. But fair play to Daniel, it turned into an absolute race-long battle between them. I just couldn't get my car in the right position to be able to get past him. So it was quite an enjoyable little sort of cat and mouse game throughout that. And then I saw Jack bin a couple of laps in, which was really unfortunate for him. So I thought, right, after last week, just keep it calm, keep it level, because it's only going to get hotter and more difficult as the race progresses.
Well, indeed, and speaking of that and needing to keep your cool despite the conditions of the track, we know this Okayama circuit highly technical, very tight, and a lot of traction zones that really dig into those rear tyres. As the race went on, I have to ask, did you start to feel the available grip just fall away? Because a lot of people complained early in the week that this circuit seems to just become an ice rink.
Definitely. One thing I've noticed, it might be the way I drive, but with the Ferrari, is coming out of sort of really low speed corners. The drive in first gear spins the tyres quite easily, so you have to sort of either short shift or be very careful on the throttle. So as the race got on, that was more and more tricky. So it became quite clear that unless I could get that under control, there was no way I was going to get past Daniel or make any headway into James. So seeing that I had a bit of a gap behind, because I think John Davies had a couple of issues as well, I just settled in, stayed with Daniel, and did my best just to get the laps through.
And it worked out quite nice, and we saw as the race went on, that pace just be maintained, and it did look at certain points as if the field in front of you that was keeping you from James Connolly was actually starting to clear James as we went deeper and deeper into the opening half an hour. Were you perhaps thinking at this point that you would be pulled into a battle with a class leader?
I had hoped that, because I did 3 hours here solo in the endurance yesterday night, and there was a theme where you might have a break, the pack splits away, but if the guys at the front of that pack start getting their act together and getting the lap time in, you end up dragging back together again with like a concertina effect. So I had hope that maybe, just maybe, that might happen, but to be honest, James kept the pace. I think we were very similar times throughout the majority of that race. So like it was just going to be quite difficult. So.
And from the pursuit of James on circuit, we come to strategy. Did look as though the majority of the field, yourself included, opted to stay out as long as possible. Was that motivated by the fear of, well, if I pit before everyone else does, I may end up in traffic?
Yes, I normally am the kind of person that would go for an earlier pit and try and get the undercut, like I did at Hockenheim to get past Jack there. But here, the traffic situation, if you ended up behind somebody slower, you would lose more time. And I just didn't feel confident enough that if I did pit early and got stuck behind traffic, that I would be able to get past because of how difficult it is. Another sort of fear into that was that the leaders were lapping a good couple of seconds faster than where we were in the pack. So it was whether there would be enough of a gap to the leaders, or if I'd get caught in there and need to give up time to let them pass. So here I just thought, right, I got to go as long as possible. Fuel isn't really too much of a thing around here. You end up like going quite long naturally anyway, so I just kept going and just kept trying to keep the tyres in check.
Well, a sensible approach then. Appreciate the breakdown of the logic. And when you emerge from the pit lane, coming back out in what was P22, it did look as though from there to the very end of the race, with only about 15 minutes to go, it was just settle in and bring home the P2. I have to ask though, with regards to the tyres out there, were there any tyre changes? And if there were not, were the tyres started to feel very sketchy at the end?
I did change. I changed 2 lefts, just because I'd seen from the tyre wear in my endurance yesterday that the front left takes an absolute hammering round here. So took 2 lefts. The car felt pretty good. It was still starting to get a bit sketchy towards the end, but after sort of still coming out behind James at a similar gap, and then Daniel slotting in again in front of me after his pit stop, it was just, keep it cool, keep it calm, and just drive towards the end and bag that P2.
And it was a P2 well deserved and well earned in the end, and with that result it means that you're moved back into, I do believe, P5 in the AM Championship, and with only a grand total of 30 points separating the top 5, yourself included, and John Doble only a point behind you in P6. The AM Championship continues to be the championship that's the most wide open for both the top and also the top 3 positions. How do you feel at this point with 2 rounds to go and knowing that the season finale is undroppable?
For me personally, I feel that I've lost too many points on the table this season to really be challenging anywhere near the top, especially after Sebring, where I got the unsafe pit entry, and then Road Atlanta, where, yeah, that happened. So really now my focus personally is trying to maximize the points possible for the team's championship, because I think after this round both UKSR teams are sat equal on total number of points, and I think we're just ahead only on like result count back. So my focus will be on that. If I can get sort of closer to the top, solidify a top 5, maybe even try and catch Jack for P3, that would be a bonus. I can take a lot of positives from the season and know that, you know, some of the things that I've lost have mainly been my fault. So.
Well, indeed, there's still plenty to play for, like you say, and just double checking with regards to the Teams Championship, you're correct to the fact that it's dead even between UKSimRacing Stuart and Mansell, and result countback puts yourself and the team of UKSimRacing Stuart ahead at the very top. So it'll be good to see how that goes all the way down to the wire over the remaining 2 rounds. And speaking of those remaining rounds, Bathurst awaits in a week's time. It's our final endurance race round of the season. How are you feeling for the infamous mountain?
We'll see. I may have to miss that race due to work, but we will see how that goes. If I do go to it, I think it's going to be a really interesting one, because it's kind of similar to here in that going over the mountain, you've pretty much got no way to pass anybody. It'll only be like on the straights that you can try and into the last part of the lap to try and get any moves done. And knowing how fast something like the Ford or the BMW is, like in a straight line, I think it's going to be a bit tricky. And especially with it being an endurance round, 1.5 hours round here. I mean, it's, you know, there are walls everywhere. It's going to be, there's no room for error around there. So I think it's going to be an interesting race, and whoever doesn't win it is probably just going to come out on top.
Indeed, I would agree with you on that, and we look forward to seeing how you take on the challenge of the mountain in a week's time, if you are able to make it. But if not, we'll look forward to seeing you on the grid at the Circuit of the Americas in 2 weeks' time for the season finale badge. But just before I do let you go, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
As normal, all of the stewards and the admin team behind the scenes that put in the work. Everybody on track that's been throughout this season. I've had quite a lot of good battles across various people in classes. All of the guys that are part of the UKSR community teams, everyone's been fantastic, like helping each other out and just giving tips and that to get the best out of everybody. And to yourself, as always, Paul, for an absolutely amazing broadcast.
Well, Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me in the interview room, and congratulations once again on your return to the podium with a P2 finish in the AM class today. If we don't get to see you on the grid in a week's time in Australia, we look forward to seeing you in the season finale in the US of A in 2 weeks' time. But until then, have a great rest of your evening, and congratulations once again.
Thank you very much, Paul.
So hearing there from Matt Edmondson in what was a brilliant drive today, and the injection he needed after a challenging conclusion to his race at Road Atlanta only a week ago. Talking in particular today about really having to focus on what was strategy and also just keeping the car on track and not having to get himself involved in too many battles, but just protecting the car and making sure the points would come his way. And in a way also discussing the fact that with James Conley just gradually pulling off into the distance, P2 seemed to be as far as he could go in the race, but also pushing his attentions towards what is the team's championship and assisting UKSimRacing Stuart in trying to take the crown. So I think Matt definitely has his focus set in now. And in the Drivers' Championship, thinking about that P3 finish in his battle with the long-term rival of Jack Barker in the Ford GT. Indeed, Ford versus Ferrari being articulated on your screens here, ladies and gentlemen. And whilst we may not have the budget of a big Hollywood blockbuster, it definitely feels like one when it comes to those two going toe-to-toe. I think we can expect plenty more from them in the 2 weeks remaining. And we may not see Matt on the grid next week, but if so, we're definitely going to miss him at Mount Panorama, and we'll even be more eager to see him back on the grid at the Circuit of the Americas in our season finale. But now we come to our second interviewee. We've heard from our first in the AM class, but now we do come to our interview in the Prime class, and it'll be Marvin Cruz who gets ready to join me in the interview room. And as we do ask him to join us now in the interview room, we're going to be hearing the story of what is your first time Pro-Am winner as he gets himself set, and what a day it's been. Pole position converted into the win. And as he joins me now, we say good evening to you, Marvin, and what a day from yourself in the fact taking your first ever win in the Pro-Am class, and on top of that as well a pole position to go with it, and I think even the fastest lap. I mean, you couldn't have asked more a perfect day at Okayama.
Yeah, very true. Thank you for having me here. I mean, I wouldn't have imagined that Okayama would be the place or the race where I would end up here, but I'll take it. I think it couldn't have went any better, really.
Now, saying about your take it and not expecting it today, I mean, qualifying, let's just talk about that. An absolutely blistering pole lap from yourself, and while some could argue perhaps the absence of Chris Constable may have assisted in that regard, I don't think anybody can debate the fact when you took pole position in the Prime class, as I just double check my data sheet here, by what was a margin of 2.5 tenths over Chris Round. We were looking at something special today. How did qualifying feel for you?
It felt quite good. I'm usually struggling, or sometimes struggling with qualifying to get anywhere close my fastest laps. Yeah, usually a mistake or two sneaks in, but I was quite lucky that I think even my first lap was already super close to my personal best. So that was very good. I think, yeah, if maybe the other Chris would have been there, that would have been a bit more tricky, and the others were still quite close. But yeah, I was definitely surprised to see that I took that P1 there in quali already.
And not just a P1 in class, but also a P5 on the overall grid. It's the highest qualifying position we've seen from a Prime driver this season. And when you're in amongst a bunch of pros and elite drivers as well, giving it everything, I mean, that must mean a lot to you as well, because it's the first ever Prime top 5 qualifier.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've been practicing quite a bit for this season specifically. Of course, it's always super amazing to see that that pays off and that you're even challenging some of the other classes that are above you. So yeah, very happy with that. I think, yeah, really nothing to complain from my side there.
Well, no complaints in qualifying, and then going into the race, we did see it get quite close into the opening couple of corners when we went green, but you managed to hold on to P5 in the early stages, and it looked as though for the most part it was going to be about you keeping a number of pro drivers behind you, including the likes of Tom Weston and Alex Hill. Just take us through the first couple of laps of the race from your perspective.
Yeah, I think the start was quite well. I managed to kind of hold on to my position. I kind of hoped that a few pro drivers or any other drivers would be between me and Alan, because I know that he's super quick. All this season he has been extremely quick, and I know that if he would have been closer to me, I would have had a lot more. I would have needed to put in a lot more effort to kind of hold that P1. But yeah, I kind of managed to stay ahead. I think Tom was behind me for the whole race, kind of. I was hoping that I didn't hold him up too much, but he told me that it was fine. So yeah, that felt really good to be able to stay ahead there. I was watching the delta to Alan for the whole race basically, and was quite happy to see that it didn't go down, at least from, I think at the beginning I've kind of established this 1-2 second gap that I had, and I managed to kind of hold on to that, even extend it throughout the race. But yeah, that was amazing.
Oh, indeed, and that gap, as you mentioned, between yourself and Alan continued to stay stationary, or continued to expand in your favour. And as the race went on, I mean, we've seen the Porsche is a very strong car here at Okayama. It does seem to be the car to beat. But from your perspective, I have to ask, it may have been the fastest car out there, but I can imagine its tyres definitely took quite a beating as a result of the conditions.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a specific problem that I have is that I usually tend to overdrive the car, especially when I'm under pressure. And being in the P1 is definitely a lot of pressure. So I was really trying to tame myself not to overdrive the car, because especially in these twisty, narrow corners of Okayama, that's super easy to do, to spin around or just light up the tires. I was trying to do that. I was kind of gambling to see if I would take tires at the pit stop or not. I know that Alan did take tires, which in the end you saw that the gap was going down a bit, not enough, thankfully for me. But I think tires were a big thing here, and I really tried my best to be nice to them. So they are treating me nicely as well.
And that worked out in your favour, no doubt, as the race went on. And I have to ask, with regards to your pit stop strategy, we did see you have one of the middle pit times of what was 12.97 seconds stationary. Quite a bit of fuel seemed to go in. Were there also some tyre changes in that space?
I did not change any tires. I was a bit scared that it would take a bit too long and Alan would get too close, because I didn't know what he was doing. I think I didn't even think about fuel saving. I just tried to go as fast as I can, and then I think because of that I probably fueled a bit too much, or fueled more than others at least. I think that definitely played a part here. But I think before the pit stops there was like a 5-second-ish gap, so I thought I can probably just continue with that strategy and not trying to save now. I think that went well, but I didn't take any tires at least.
Well, it seemed to be a gamble that paid off in the end, staying with the same tyres all the way to the finish. And come the checkered flag, 5.9 seconds being the gap between yourself and Anne Lever for you to take your first prime win for Old Dudes in Cars Blue. I mean, just take us through the feeling coming out the last couple of corners and seeing that checkered flag.
Yeah, I mean, that was great. It was even, in fact, my first ever win in UKSR in any kind of league that I did. So that was something special for me. I wouldn't have thought that Okayama would have been the place, and I wouldn't have thought before the race that this would be the race as well, because I was practicing quite a bit, but it is a tricky track, and I didn't know that I could win here. So getting throughout the last few laps, I was kind of thinking about it, not too much, because that's usually the moment when I spin it if I think too much about winning. But the last lap was definitely very special, to kind of finally have that win, to see that the practice pays off, and I managed to stay ahead. So that was a special moment for me for sure. Yeah.
And off of the back of tonight's win, it does mean you're now provisionally P3 in the Prime Championship. 5 points off of Rob Selby. And with drop scores accounted for, it does mean that Anne Lever has been catapulted far ahead. But the key point being here, it's all to play for at the top of the Prime Championship, and you're right into the mix. We've got 2 rounds remaining. Did you expect to be in the potential battle for the win of the championship at this stage?
Oh, absolutely not. No, I think my goal at the beginning of the season would have been, I would have been very happy with the top 5 or top 6 at the end of the season. Now being in P3, at least I mean, I think if Alan doesn't mess up, he's definitely pretty far ahead, and he can probably secure P1. But I think technically things are still open, and I could sneak up on the podium position at the end of the season. So I think, that's a bit surprising, but I'll take it. I try my best to kind of stay where I am or even improve, even if the competition with everyone in the PA class up top is very tough. A lot of exceptional drivers and people like Alan just taking, I think his worst result was a P3, so that tells you already a lot about what's going on there. I'll see where that takes me, but I'll definitely fight for it.
And we look forward to that fight, and I think there might be a bit of envy from Alan, the fact he's had many a podium. In fact, all he's done is second and thirds all this season, but the one thing he hasn't got, which you've now got, is a win over him. And with 2 rounds to go, we head to Mount Panorama in a week's time. How are you feeling for a trip to the Australian mountain?
Quite good. It's a track that I really like. We're also practicing for that track now in my team as well, so they will definitely need a lot of practice to be confident to maneuver the car for 90 minutes without touching the walls too much. It's a very tough track for me, and I think for all of the other drivers involved, so I think it's definitely going to be kind of a fight for survival. But yeah, I'll do my best. I'll try, but it's definitely a track that I really enjoy driving. It's a very rewarding track if you get to put a nice lap together, or even a 90-minute race for that matter.
We definitely look forward to seeing if you can reap the rewards in Australia for round number 7 next Sunday. But Marvin, just before I do let you go, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, of course, my team, the Old Dudes in Cars. I'm super happy to be a part of that. I was asked to be a part of them. It's been an amazing journey to drive in the leagues with them and special races. So thank you, all of you guys, for bearing with me. Yeah, on the topic of bearing with me, my wife, of course, that I spent my Sunday evenings pretending to be a race driver. Yeah, I mean, who I want to thank as well is all of the organizers, so the admins, stewards, and everyone involved of UKSR for doing such a great job. It's really an awesome experience to be kind of a part of this for a few seasons now already. And yeah, but last but definitely not least, you, of course, Paul, for providing such an amazing commentary and coverage of our races. That's really awesome.
Well, Marvin, we have to give a big thank you to you for joining us in the interview room this evening. And well, once again, congratulations on sealing your first win in the Pram class this season. Well deserved and well earned. Enjoy it, savour it, and we look forward to plenty more for yourself at Bathurst. But until then, have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you. Same to you, Paul.
So hearing there from Marvin Cruz, our prime winner today, and well, I think you can hear in his voice, I don't think he can quite believe he's taken the win, but what a way to do it today. In the fact, putting in plenty of practice for Okayama and getting the job done, and starting it off in style with what was the beginning of a perfect score by taking not just pole position in class, but P5 on the overall grid. A phenomenal place to be, and then going into the race, having a couple of places between himself and his closest rivals in the form of Alan Lever, and holding on to that position at the start, and all the way through, keeping DCW Racing's Tom Weston behind. And the only place he lost in the end was one to James Armstrong, who made his way through. But in the end, Marvin Cruz really not losing any ground to his prime rivals, and in fact finishing 6 seconds clear come the end. And it's a statement that has definitely put him in firm contention for the Prime Championship. And whilst he may fancy his chances being a bit of an outsider and looking to scrap for that top 5 finish, which was his target at the end of the season, the fact that he's now inside the hunt for a top 3 finish, I think it's only going to make him push even harder when we go into Mount Panorama. And well, he likes the Australian circuit, and we would like to see him continue his momentum there, but will he be able to do so? That's the big question, and we'll have to find out in a week's time. But now, ladies and gentlemen, we come to our final interview for today. And staying on the theme of first-timers in the Prime class, we're very shortly going to be having Jeff Griffiths getting ready to join me in the interview room. And well, as he does so, we're going to hear his inside story with regards to taking his first podium of the season, and also how he's had to battle his way through to take said position. But as he gets set, we just are waiting out, and indeed he joins me now. Good evening to you, Jeff, and what a day it has been in the Prime class. We've just spoken to our first time winner in the class, and for yourself, it's your first ever podium in the class as of this season. How does it feel to have taken a Prime podium?
Yeah, good evening, Paul. Yeah, pretty chuffed with that, to be honest. Yeah, pretty sweaty race, but yeah, enjoyed it, and I've been battling away for done a few seasons, and yeah, nice to get on the podium at last. I tend to not be, so yeah, it's all good.
Oh, no doubt about it. And with regards to how you went about it here at this Okayama circuit, it looked as though in the early stages today, it was going to be an uphill battle given the fact P4 in qualifying, and within the qualifying session itself, unless I'm mistaken. Just double checking our prime times that came on in for yourself. It was a P4, albeit a couple attempts off of the lap set by both Chris Roundon and Lever. It looked as though perhaps there was a little bit left out on the table.
Yeah, it felt good. Like quality did feel good, and then but definitely left a little bit of time on there, and I was a little bit disappointed with it. And I went back and had a look at times I'd done previously in practice on sort of quali fuel, and it wasn't too far off. So I mean, I saw Marvin sort of 4/10 up or something like that, and obviously just was going to be nowhere near that on pole. And then obviously that kind of teed up an interesting race whereby there's quite a few cars in between some of us guys in the same class. So yeah, and obviously it's a track where you have to quali well. So I was kind of reliant on other things happening around me a little bit, and just try to drive a solid race, make no errors, and let the race come to me a little bit.
Well, indeed, and coming from qualifying to the race and talking particularly about that point of drivers in other classes around you, we did see over the opening stint in particular, the opening 35 minutes or so, you're having to get your elbows out versus a couple of pros out there, including the likes of, say, Darren Sharples and also Casper Brotner. I mean, it looks as though you were giving as good as they were giving yourself, but overtaking is so challenging.
Yeah, it was. I kind of got behind Daz, and I thought I'm just going to sort of stick here in the toe, save a bit of fuel. I think he's naturally just a bit quicker than me anyway, so I was kind of sitting there, just trying to play it a bit smart, really, not be mugged off too much by other quick people coming through the pack like James Armstrong. So I was sort of happy-ish there, because the issue was if I got past him, there was another couple of pros before I even started getting to Alan and Chris round. So yeah, it was a funny one. I was a little bit stuck, and I knew that, yeah, because overtaking is a bit tricky, it would have to be something, pretty crazy mood, or wait for him to make a mistake. And as it happened, the gods are kind of on my side a little bit. I think someone took him out at at the big hairpin, and I just sort of, schmeagled my way through really without having to do much. But a track like Okayama as well, as I said, it's just staying out of trouble is a pretty good tactic.
Oh, no doubt about it. And as the race went on, I have to ask as well, with regards to the traffic you were negotiating, did that make you decide to change anything about your strategy?
So I was sort of in no man's land, if I'm honest with you, Paul. Like, because I had the pros in front of me. I can't remember who was behind me, but the next pro-am behind me was sort of, I think 3 or 4 seconds back. So it was just a case of sitting tight. Because I didn't have the pace really to go forward without sort of cost myself a bit of time. And so, strategy-wise, I just emptied the tank. I came in, I think, 1 lap earlier, but only because I'd kind of just lost the toe of the cars in front. So I thought, well, I might as well go in now, and traffic was a little bit better going in then. It didn't play too much because I was kind of in no man's land.
I see it. So coming in from no man's land and emerging out in a bit of a quiet space as well. And after everybody had taken their pit stops, re-emerging in what was effectively P3 in the prime class, P12 overall. From them to the end of the race, it looked as though it was just about keeping your head down and managing the car. But I have to ask, how did the car feel towards the end? Did you put on a fresh pair of tyres in the pits, or was it the same set of tyres all the way?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I discovered that other people had put tyres on in the Discord after the race, so yeah, I could have probably put a couple of lefts on, it sounds like. I just didn't have time in the week to run official, so all my practice was pretty much on test drives or just in practice sessions themselves rather than kind of a live race scenario. So yeah, I didn't know. So typically I'm pretty good on my tyres, so I nursed them pretty well. So the car honestly felt fine towards the end. I think the penultimate lap I went a bit wide on the last corner. Again, that front left was probably screaming a little bit. But yeah, I just went in, fuel, no tyres, minimised the time in the pits. Yeah, somehow still lost a bit of time to the guys in front. So yeah, some work to do there, I think.
I see, but at the same time, with the work that you did put in today, coming through the last couple of corners to see the checker flag and take your first prime podium, I mean, we've had multiple finishes from yourself this season, which have been at P5 finishes, but it must have felt good to finally put a podium on the board.
Yeah, I was buzzing. Last week was really frustrating. I thought I'd kind of got myself into a position to get a podium, and it's just an unforced error on that T5 at Road Atlanta that sort of murdered a few people, and I just took myself out of the game. So yeah, this was pretty sweet, to be honest with you, in terms of just getting through to the end and actually getting the result. last week I had such a good battle with Marvin and Alan. I popped him a message afterwards saying that was great fun. So yeah, pity couldn't battle with them again today, but yeah, delighted to come through on the podium.
Well, speaking of battling, you do find yourself P7 provisionally in the Prime Championship at the tail end of a top 7 separated by a margin of 45 points, but it's only 10 points between yourself and Simon Oldfield and a further 3 to Chris Constable at this moment. 2 rounds remain, there's still plenty of points out there, and in a week's time we head to Mount Panorama. Is it all feeling good?
No, I'm actually off to the mountains myself next week, so I'm off snowboarding for a week, so I'm not going to be around at Bathurst, which isn't the worst thing in the world. I'm not a massive fan of the track. It just tends to be, carnage. So I'll be back for Kota after a drop week, and we'll see what we can do from there.
And with regards to the Circuit of the Americas, how do you feel about the circuit?
Yeah, it's one I quite enjoy. You can get some good racing done there. I need to kind of get into a bit of a groove and practice. I think the thing I want to improve on generally is just my quali. I don't think it's the strongest part of my driving, so it would be nice to qualify well there. I always back myself to move forward in a race, but yeah, it's a fun circuit to drive. Nice variety. Quite enjoy it in these cars as well.
We do look forward to seeing you on the grid for our season finale in 2 weeks' time. Shame we won't see you on the mountains at Mount Panorama, but still we hope you have a nice time at skiing on the mountains in real life next week. But just before we do let you go, Jeff, is there anybody you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to live on the broadcast tonight?
Yeah, I think the UKSR stewards, they're often on the end of a load of chat at the Discord, so I think they deal with everything really, really well. So just those guys, and then my biggest fan in the whole wide world, Helen, who I believe is listening, so I'll shout out to her as well.
Oh, indeed, we have had Helen tuning in today on the YouTube chat, and I think she'll definitely appreciate the shout out. But with that, Jeff, it's been an absolute pleasure having you join me in at the interview room, and congratulations once again on a fantastic drive to a 3rd place finish on the Prime podium. We look forward to plenty more in the season finale in 2 weeks' time, but until then, stay with the moment on the podium, have a fantastic time skiing in a week's time, and we'll see you on the grid soon.
Oh man, cheers, Paul.
So hearing there from Built Visible Racing's Jeff Griffiths, the number 86 driver in the Porsche 992, who today managed to bring home that podium he's been pushing for and missed at Road Atlanta after that unfortunate incident. And interesting to hear his thoughts with regards to qualifying, with the pole lap that was set by Marvin Cruz being out of reach, and feeling as though there's a bit more time out there to get himself closer to the P2, P3 battle, if you will, in qualifying for the Prime class. But also talking about, and a key quote I'd take there, always trust himself to move forward in the races, and doing exactly that here today at a circuit where moving forward is very difficult to do, but indeed not making any mistakes, keeping himself out of trouble. And when it went wrong for Chris Round, who you can see in the pictures here going through in the foreground currently in the Audi R8 for Leroy Jenkins, well, Jeff was there to pounce immediately and never looked back. However, he had his own troubles as well to manage over the course of the racing, including the back and forth nip and tuck battles with a number of pro drivers such as Darren Sharples, and having to make the right calls as to when to battle with them versus when to stay behind, or alternatively opt to come into the pits, but making those calls exactly right. And whilst not changing any tyres in the end and perhaps regretting that decision, still keeping the car together all the way to the end and bringing on home that podium that puts him well within reach, or is a potential top 5 finish come the end of the season. We'll miss him at Mount Panorama in a week's time, there's no doubt about it, and he'll be missed on the grid and being in that top 5 fight. But when he comes back refreshed and reinvigorated for the Circuit of the Americas, could we see him go one step further? Could we see another podium? Could we perhaps even see him take his first win in the finale? All that and more will be seen in 2 weeks' time. But until then, we can only hypothesise, and we hope he has a lovely break next weekend. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes all of our interviews for today. Indeed, you've heard from 3 drivers, one from the AM class in the form of Matt Edmondson from UKSimRacing Stewart, and we've also heard from 2 in the Pram class. Firstly, Marvin Cruz, Old Dudes in Cars Blue, first time winning the Pram class, and then first time podium finisher P3 in the class today. You just heard from Jeff Griffiths from Built Visible Racing. Congratulations to all 3 of them on their fantastic performances today, and well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have them join me in at the interview room, and we look forward to plenty more from them coming up in the weeks ahead. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time for us to take a look at the standings after 6 rounds of racing, and keeping in mind these are provisional. As we can see, start off the Elite Drivers' Championship, it's James Armstrong who leads the way still, having fought his way through to what was a P4 finish in the class today, and with those 34 points going in hand to now moving to what is 14 points clear of Haroldas Jotautas, who has closed a little bit on the delta, but at the same time Armstrong's wins earlier in the season, giving him a comfortable gap, which may be starting to look to be unassailable. But from the top two, Jack Taylor sits a further 5 points behind, but the win today bringing him closer to the top two for UKSimRacing Tire. And there's Effect Simulations Alex Millward, who after the misfortune, still picking up the fastest lap plus the pole lap, 40 points to his name, but knowing he wanted the 42 today, and now sitting at P4. He has a 13-point advantage over Daniel Shilcock, not on the grid today for Tractix Racing, and severely missed, and therefore staying P5 ahead of Reece Saunders, with Eric Rosev, Helder Gonçalves, Cy Anthony, and Aidan Neat completing your top 10. From them, it's David Sabero, P11, Best the Rest of Bradman Esports Hissing Sid, behind his sister team driver of Neat, and then we have Gavin Garner and Yanis Aubert completing your championship standings. We then come on to the Pro class, and as we look here to the Pro Championship standings, it is none other than Ryan Davies, who now stands 33 points clear after what has been, I do believe, his third win of the season. And with an advantage such as that, well, all he needs to do next week is put another result like this together, and in theory, he could be going into the season finale in a position where it will require an absolutely unfathomable result in order for him to lose the crown. Indeed, that crown is beckoning closer. Alex Hill sits P2, fellow UKSimRacing driver, but for the Kimi outfit rather than Carmarte, and right now still 9 points clear of Khalid Ramadan, with the SomSport driver's resilience today proving important to move into P3, and he holds a 9-point gap over Old Dudes in Cars Black driver Casper Brotner. From him, it's 6 points to Nicholas Rice, the Destino Motorsports driver, having a little bit of a misfortunate day today, finding himself in plenty of battles with drivers at other classes and pushing him out of contention for what was a top 5 finish, but still he held in firm, and Christer Halsoy's absence has moved the Tractix Racing driver down to P6, 2 points behind. There's a further 2 points to John Eddowes for UKSimRacing Tire, whose misfortune midway through the race cost him dear, and met Hisley for Sloshy Motorsports, normally typified by some brilliant batting and some daring moves, but those moves not paying dividends today and staying at P8 ahead of Mark Collicott and Tom Weston, who for DCW Racing, that second place finish, moving into P10 there, and well, moving now 22 points off his teammate of Collicott. Joshua Pratt sits P11 on 99 points, only one outside the top 10, best the rest of UKSimRacing Corpa, ahead of Sim Racers Casper Tunstead, and it's Darren Sharples, Daniel Pays, and Pete Cox who complete your top 15, with only pinning a further point behind P16, and it's a further point to Lee King McGee for AKM Racing UK, and then TART's Kevin Eilert and Rachel Conkley complete the championship standings, your top 19. We then come to the Prime class, and here we can see the complexion is one that stands tall for Alan Lever. Alan Lever right now leading by 16 points of Rob Selby. It's a 1-2 for UKSimRacing Stewart, and the pair looking to run away with Marvin Cruz a further 5 points behind. However, whereas Lever leads, having yet to take a win this season, and could this be the first time ever we have seen a champion crowned without a single win? We've still got 2 rounds of racing to go. Indeed, it doesn't normally happen in real-world motorsport, let alone simulated motorsport, but it's happened a couple of times. Could Lever be one to make history at the end of the season? Well, he'll be looking for that win at Mount Panorama. Meanwhile, Rob Selby will know the hard work's got to be done, with the fact Marvin Cruz is looking close. Chris Round the same for Leroy Jenkins. A bit of a speed bump day today, losing out what could have been a podium, and Chris Constable not on the grid, the Destino Motorsports driver, adding another 0 score and to his championship calendar, and therefore now knowing he's on the back foot to a degree after leading for so long, as he sits 5 points behind Round at the end of the top 5. Simon Oldfield sits a further 3 points behind, not on the grid today, and using today as his drop score for Team Vadrasil. He'll be back in a week's time, we suspect, but 10 points clear of Jeff Griffiths of Built Visible Racing. And then we have a sizable gap of what is 17 points to Stein Arsani for Racing Lab Esports, with the team not having the strongest day today. And indeed, right now, it's himself, Stefan Albanese for Darius Esport, and Simon Andre Livingston for Race Lab Esports, who all sit on 128 points, but in the order we just mentioned due to result count back in that completes your top 10. Rob Armstrong sits P11 for UKSimRacing Mansell, a further 18 points behind best the rest, ahead of Matt Whitefoot, with Steve Hughes, Chris Bates, and Satinder Deensa completing your top 15. And it's Noyo Sabas and Joel Duton, with Lawrence Marsh, Connor Craven, and Ed Frazina completing your championship standings of 20 drivers. We then come to the AM Drivers' Championship, and here here the complexion is going the way of James Conley. Now it's a 14-point gap for the UKSimRacing Mansell driver ahead of teammate Neil Smith, who's jumped into P2 after a difficult day for Jack Barker, the privateer in the Ford GT, who's fallen to P3, but knowing still there's 2 rounds to go and anything is possible. Conley arguably is the favourite at this point in time, but meanwhile, whilst he may be the favourite, the battle for P2 has no favourite, with John Davis only a further 3 points behind Barker, and the wrong stuff driver, whilst may have missed out on a podium today, another top 5 finish keeping him well and truly in the hunt. Matt Edmondson at P5 for UKSimRacing Stuart, a P2 he needed in order to bring himself back into the fight and getting exactly that, as he stands a single point over John Doble in P6 for the TT Simsport Kimi driver, who continues to show that perseverance and consistency are key in equal measure. And it's Cy Hartley, Neil Jack, Guy Kyliau and James Bostock who complete your top 10, with Shaminda Deanser at P11 best of the rest ahead of Andy Skinner. And it's Dave Robson, Jonathan Tighe and Frankie Klein completing your championship standings. But then lastly we come on to the top 20 teams championship. And here we can see it is UKSimRacing Stuart and UKSimRacing Mansell. As mentioned earlier on in this broadcast by Matt Edmondson, they are tied on points, but it is Stuart ahead of Mansell based on result count back. No points between them and a 35-point gap to Tiki Simsport Car Marte. It's looking as though it's going to be between the 2 UKSimRacing teams, albeit we've got 2 rounds to go and anything can happen. But indeed, Tiki Simsport Car Marte and Tractix Racing, who sit a further 5 points behind them, will both be eager to try and get themselves back into that top 2 fight. Tiki Simsport Tire sits P5 ahead of Tiki Simsport Kimi, and while I do believe some of the points numbers there being in the incorrect order, but as in fact we do see 316 to 324, but no worries about that. The order is correct, but the points may not be listed correctly, we should point out. And Destino Motorsports sitting P7 on 309 ahead of Racing Lab Esports, with Brabham Esports and Old Dudes in Cars Blue completing your top 10. The wrong stuff, P11 at best of rest ahead of Old Dudes in Cars Black, as the battle to be inside the top 10 continues to intensify, with DCW Racing at P13 a further 2 points behind, and it's Tiki Simsport Corpa and Absolute Motorsport Ace who complete your top 15. Effect Simulations are ahead of Leroy Jenkins in the fight for P16 by what is 8 points, and it's Somsport, Team Vagisil and Altitude Esports who complete your top 20, and from the 146 points of Altitude Esports, Built Visible Racing are only a point behind on 145 P21. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our wrap-up of the standings, and it's now time for us to wrap up. Thank you very much for watching, and if you have enjoyed today's show, and perhaps you're sat there right now wanting to be on the grid for a future rendition of the UKSimRacing GT3 League, or perhaps you want to know about our other series, or just want to become part of the ever-growing community, well, we do recommend you firstly check out our official website. You saw it earlier on today's broadcast, and that's uksimracing.co.uk, where you can find out all the latest details and information regarding the community on our ongoing and upcoming series. But if you're more of a social media person, well, of course, you can follow us on Twitter, now known as X, and our Twitter handle is at twitter.com/UKSimRacing_, where you can stay up to date with all the latest announcements regarding our series, but also the trials and tribulations of the official UKSimRacing esports teams. We'd also like to take this moment to say a big thank you to our affiliates, who do include firstly Swilly Almeida Sim Racing Coaching, the creator of the Motor Racing Checklist. Swilly Almeida Sim Racing Coaching can help take your sim racing driving to the next level. Whether you're looking to gain a 10th, improve your approach to the racing line, or develop your consistency, Swilly Almeida has a coaching course to meet your needs. Plus, with Swilly being a multi-time champion of official iRacing series, including the 2021 PESCC, you know you're receiving coaching from the very best in the industry. We also have Race Anywhere, the provider of curated sim racing equipment aimed at only stock products that represent excellent value for the sim racing community. Demon Tweaks, the provider of the most complete and innovative motorsport product range available worldwide, so no matter what your level of discipline, Demon Tweaks can help drive you to realise your motorsport ambitions. SimLab, the leading manufacturer of high-quality sim racing-related hardware. As a proud partner of Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports, SimLab aims to enhance virtual racing experiences with uncompromising solutions that push the boundaries of esports and make SimLab the go-to brand for quality sim racing rigs. We also have Amazon, the company trying to be the Earth's most customer-centric company, the Earth's best employer, and the Earth's safest place to work through the provision of concepts pioneered by Amazon, which do include but are not limited to Amazon Fire Tablets, Fire TV, and Amazon Alexa. And lastly, but by no means least, SRC Driver Academy. Elevate your sim racing skills at SRC Driver Academy. The team of experienced professionals is dedicated to helping you reach your full potential without compromising on quality. But why choose SRC? Affordable, quality coaching. They have experienced coaches who provide valuable insights and a competitive edge, making high-quality coaching accessible to all at an affordable cost tailored to your needs and goals. You can learn race strategies, precision driving, and much more. And they offer virtual coaching sessions at nearly all hours of the day, every day, ensuring flexibility for all. So join SRC Driver Academy today and unlock your true sim racing potential. Visit our website to learn more and accelerate your sim racing career. Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we do take a week now to look ahead to what is round number 7. And next Sunday, on Sunday the 25th of February 2024, it'll be the question of who is the king or the queen of the mountain Australia. And a circuit has recently played host in real life to the 12 hours of Bathurst. Our drivers will be roaring their way up through Mount Panorama, but who will be coming down the mountain to see the checker flag and be your winner in each of our classes and set themselves up for success at the Circuit of the Americas in our season finale a week after. All that and more will be discovered down under in Australia in a week's time. You've got to be there to see what happens, but until then, we've been UKSimRacing. I've been your host and commentator, Paul TX141 Walsh, also known as Britain a Spit, depending on what media you follow me on. And until next time, remember to stay safe, stay well, stay smiling, but most importantly, remember to stay on track. Good night.